Okay, so just to confirm, we are now in Holland Park, and Holland Park is in Kensington. The entrance that I came into is directly located on Kensington High Street. And Kensington, this part of Kensington, is W8. There are several parts of Kensington: North Kensington, South Kensington, High Street Kensington, and also West Kensington. Yeah, this is a great place to get fast, healthy, relatively healthy, especially if you like Thai food, food on the go. And you can also sit and eat if you choose to. And that, by the way, not that I was actively filming them. You will notice the reason that we've got guys walking along the street here with machine guns. There are two reasons actually. One is the fact that obviously Kensington Palace is nearby, and the second reason, and they're probably, I would think, in front of me in a moment, going to turn left. We'll see. The gold leaf on the gates is going to absolutely, it's really sparkling already. It's going to absolutely sparkle in this light. We caught the light at the right moment. Don't forget the palace is directly facing south. But in terms of bearing in mind that the rain is forecast for 2 p.m, it's now 1 p.m, I'm going to press on. I will very briefly go on to Bywater Street, simply because it's pretty unique actually, even for this area. A little bit like Portobello Road in some respects, but notice the different hues of pastel colours along this street. Colbert. Yeah, look, see, the streets are getting wet literally as we're walking in them on this live. What timing? I mean, seriously. The rain was forecast for 2 p.m. We got an extra hour before it came. That is incredibly fortunate today. Okay, so just to confirm, we are now in Holland Park, and Holland Park is in Kensington. The entrance that I came into is directly located on Kensington High Street. And Kensington, this part of Kensington, is W8. There are several parts of Kensington: North Kensington, South Kensington, High Street Kensington, and also West Kensington. The two sort of, should we say, how should I describe them politely? The two more affluent parts of Kensington are South Kensington and High Street Kensington, postcodes SW7 and W8 respectively. The other two, North and West, perfectly nice places to live in central London, but considerably less expensive than South and High Street. And curiously enough, even though the tube on Kensington High Street is called High Street Kensington, the street is called Kensington High Street. So I have no clue on earth why the High Street is called Kensington High Street, yet they named the tube station High Street Kensington, either intentionally or an unfortunate oversight. Hyde Park is coming up today. I will be going into Hyde Park if we have this glorious sunshine to show you guys the wonder that is Kensington Palace. So let's get moving. Right now we're going to have a bit of direct sunshine for a moment. We're going to go out of the main park gates in front of me. And once I exit the gate here, the middle gates are always locked, they're never open. There's two side gates. Yes, it's Kensington, and it's a very, very nice day today. So out we go, and we're now walking onto Kensington High Street. And as you can see, there is not, unless the phone is lying, there is not a cloud in the sky. Isn't it a beautiful day? It's a wonderful day, in fact, to be honest. Beautiful today. So we are currently walking away from Holland Park, which is behind me, and in the general direction of Hyde Park, which is, let me think, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 minutes from where we are now, and then we're going to hit Hyde Park. So we'll see it shortly. I think we started at a good time today. It's literally about to hit 12 noon, so at the moment, although it's It's bustling, it's not crazy busy, people have not set out to have their lunch yet. It's always the way, isn't it? You know, you go somewhere, you love the weather, the moment you need to leave, it gets even better. You're like, no. It's literally like going to Morocco for a week and finding yourself in the rain. Oh, 11 p.m. in New South Wales. Goodness. Lovely cars as well. We're going to probably see some very nice cars today. $7 a.m. in Tennessee. Damn, you like to get up early. 7 a.m. That's a hard one. That would be a difficult one for me, I must admit. I'm not typically an early riser. I don't mind in the summer when it's nice and warm, but goodness, January, 7 a.m. It's actually pitch black here at 7 a.m. It gets light here at around about between 7:45 and 8:15. Although luckily it's starting to get light a little earlier and dark a little later. Welcome everyone that's joining from the US or from the Philippines. Welcome and good morning. You might get some funny looks actually. People are a little snooty here, but you know what? Let them be as snooty as they want. If anybody wants to ask me what I'm doing or why they've got a camera facing them, I will gladly stop, talk to them and let them know the reasons for that. I do prefer to engage with people actually and ask them, you know, what the issue is as opposed to just ignoring or getting into an argument. Currently, for anyone that's just joined, I'm walking along Kensington High Street in central London. It's West Central London, but I mean fundamentally it's central London. When I use that term, central London, I use it to include the entire area that comprises Zone 1. So it's actually quite a big area. It includes all of the tourist areas, Big Ben, Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus, Trafalgar Square. But Zone 1 extends right out as far as Earl's Court in the west, and it goes to all the City of London in the east. So Zone 1 is an enormous area, so people say they live in central London. Then traditionally and typically they mean that they live within Zone 1. This is interesting too, only because it's quite still relatively rare here in London. I'm sure it's much more popular in the US. There's an Amazon Fresh store here, shop, store. I use those words interchangeably. We primarily say shop here, but store is becoming much more widely used, especially in terms of luxury retail. People, if they say they're going to Harrods, people often refer to it as a store as opposed to a shop. The word shop is definitely slowly dying out here in England, to be honest. Shop sort of denotes something small and quaint. Whereas, you know, something that is either a US brand or something larger is typically referred to these days as a store. So I will sort of use those words interchangeably. I mean, we know what we mean, or what I mean fundamentally. But yes, it's Amazon Fresh. For anyone that hasn't used one yet, it's great. You don't need to pay. You don't need to queue. You don't need to wait. You go in, you scan your little QR code on the barrier, and in you go. Boom. Every single item that you pick up from the shelf is automatically charged to your account. They've got sensors that weigh the shelf, so they know when and how many items have been removed, and obviously cameras everywhere watching what you're doing. Extraordinary AI, without a doubt, and it works. I mean, it really does work very, very well, and it saves a lot of time. You know, if you want to quickly grab a coffee or a pastry, you get in and out in less than 15 seconds because it's right next to the door. You know, I can see this being a huge thing. I can see most other shops will be following this formula. Tesco's in Holborn, I believe, is the first Tesco in London that's adopted a till-less, transaction-less model. So I can very much see this being in 10 years. I can see every shop being along these lines. Walk in, pick it up, walk out, done. Enormous savings for the retailer and convenience and time saved for the passenger, for the shopper, for the person that's going in. You know, it's a win-win. It really is. Okay, it certainly somewhat removes the interpersonal aspect of communication, especially as, you know, older people like to get out and about and talk. But you know, it is what it is. Things need to change. We need to innovate. Yeah, it was. So carrying along here, in a moment we're going to go past, on the right hand side will be High Street, Kensington, although it's actually called High Street Kensington Station, even though we're on Kensington High Street. It's a curious one. But as you can see, folks, it's a wonderful day here. It really is beautiful. The lighting is superb. It's a shame we didn't have this lighting yesterday when I was on the river and crossing over to the south bank, etc. That was a real pity. That's the tube station over there on my right. As we keep walking along here, we will shortly, in 4 or 5 minutes, reach one of the gates that goes into Hyde Park, and then of course Kensington Palace beyond. It really isn't terribly far from the gate to the palace. It's always great, in fact, any areas that have the sandstone or limestone buildings here in the centre. As you can see, that's the old Barker's building. The way the light hits the top of the building, it almost illuminates it. So this is the Ivy. There are several of these in central London. Obviously this is the Kensington branch. Not very busy yet, people having brunch. Welcome, joining from South Africa. Goodness. I'm in Kensington, everyone. Anyone that's just joining. I didn't pin Kensington when I began this live because this live is going to be across multiple places. Kensington, Chelsea, Knightsbridge probably. We have a beautiful church here. This church, in fact, at the moment we're at the top end of Kensington High Street. This old church is a very famous church, not only because it's been here for an awful long time, but behind it, not a lot of people know this, behind this church, St Mary Abbots, is how would I say this? Arguably London's most exclusive primary school. Okay, for two reasons. One, it's in Kensington. And two, not many people even know it's there. It's a very, 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 very exclusive little school, which in London terms is rare because it's free. Okay, it's a state school. It's a Church of England state school. And part of the reason this school, which had remained relatively anonymous for a long, long time, part of the reason it became very, very well known, is that David Cameron, the former British Prime Minister, decided that he was going to send his son to this school. He sent his son here, and then a few other famous people, for example Michael Gove and some other UK politicians, decided, hey, if the Prime Minister is going to send his child to this school, I want to send my child to this school. So very quickly the school became populated by the offspring of politicians. Unsurprisingly, I guess, as some of them live in Kensington or in Notting Hill. So the school is, very convenient, and as mentioned, it's free. If you can get a place, not easy. Getting a place here depends on two things. Obviously, it depends on connections to the church. That's number one. But also, and this is the key here, it depends on getting a reference from the vicar at the church, and that reference needs to confirm that you've been a good Christian and that you've attended service consistently over a number of years. Okay, so I can't remember exactly what the requirements were. I think it was 2 years of relatively continuous attendance on Sundays at the Sunday morning service here at St Mary Abbots. and that meant that you were then eligible to apply. It didn't mean you got a place, it just meant you could apply for a place. And bearing in mind that it's a small school, class size is around 25 children or so, 2 teachers per class. The odds of getting your child into this school, roughly 1 in 15. Okay, so 15 applications per place for St Mary Abbots. Worth it, 100%, because in addition to the location and obviously the alumni, amazing teaching, behind the school, which is at the back of the church, I'm not going to go there, I have no desire to film children, behind the church is the school. And the school is very fortunate because unlike almost every other school in central London, St Mary Abbots has, get ready for it, outside space. Yep, it has gardens, it has its own sports, it's not a pitch, should we say, it has its own sports area. So it's very, very lucky, and a very large playground. In fact, 2 playgrounds, one for the upper school and one for the lower school. So a wonderful, wonderful school. Anyone that is moving to London and decides that, hey, you know what, I'd love to get my kid into the best school, which is also free, this is it, guys. One for the bookmarks for anyone that's expecting or planning a family and a life in London. St Mary Abbots Primary School, Church of England, here in Kensington. Okay, let's go across and head toward Hyde Park. The building directly in the middle of the frame, newest looking building along the street, that's the Royal Garden Hotel. I'm not sure if you can see that at the top. Again, one of London's finest hotels, 5-star, extraordinary views from the upper rooms going right across Hyde Park and right across with completely clear, unobstructed visibility to Kensington Palace and the gardens. So we're going to cross over here when the traffic stops. This corner is notorious, and we'll be at the park gates in a matter of minutes. Okay, there we are. So a small, brief respite from the relentless traffic in these parts of London. Also a food court, in fact, that was quite recently opened here. Enormous number of small cafes and places to eat. It's actually very useful, this food court, because obviously the area itself has got a lot of well-known restaurants, some very expensive restaurants. We all passed the Ivy a little while ago, hardly a cheap restaurant. But yeah, this is a great place to get fast, healthy, relatively healthy, especially if you like Thai food, food on the go. And you can also sit and eat if you choose to. And that, by the way, not that I was actively filming them, you will notice the reason that we've got guys walking along the street here with machine guns, there are 2 reasons actually. One is the fact that obviously Kensington Palace is nearby, and the second reason, and they're probably, I would think, in front of me in a moment, going to turn left, we'll see. To the left, around the corner, I'm not going to be specific, but let's just say to the left, just up here, is the Israeli Embassy here in London. And the Israeli Embassy is very, very heavily guarded, for obvious reasons. So they're either going to go down to the palace or they're going to do a left toward the Israeli Embassy. Okay, so one has broken off. He's going to go down to the, I'm not going to film it for security reasons. He's going to go down to the Israeli Embassy, and the other 2 are heading toward the palace. That was rather nice, wasn't it? We literally stopped there for a moment and we get 3 armed police walking straight into the frame instantly. Very unexpected, but that happens quite a lot in, shall we say, the more upper end areas of central London. So we've also got police outriders, like you just left Kensington Palace, going back to wherever they're ordinarily based. Somebody's car broke down. In fact, it's got I think it's got a Qatari plate on it. Yeah, imagine that. You've got your Bentley just decided, oh, I don't want to work anymore. Yeah, it's a Bentley. Nice white Bentley. Oh. How unfortunate. Okay, let's continue. I digress. Okay, I'm not going to film in here because, as you'll see from the sign, it says you can't film. However, I can film here because I'm on the public highway. That, folks, is, in some respects, opinions vary. That, in some respects, is the single most expensive street in the world. Okay, I don't know if you can see through the gate there, it says no filming or photography. So I'm not going to keep the camera focused because the security guy might get upset. The reason that street is so exclusive and expensive is twofold, okay? First of all of the major consulates... It's facing this way. Oh, don't worry, I know, I read the sign, no photography. Don't worry, understood. As you saw, that chap that just stopped me, 100% Israeli plainclothes security guy. See, this is why you need to be careful here. That was lucky. Wait, I'm just making sure he's gone before I continue. 1 second. Yeah, it's okay. He's walked on. Okay, so yeah, that street is very expensive because it has a number of consulates and embassies: Russian, Israeli, French, Danish, many, at least half a dozen, if not more. But also, in addition, some of the richest people in the world, the Mittal family, Eccleston family, live on that street. Now, I probably shouldn't do this at this point, but you know what? It's already been published, so whatever. I did before, but this is of course before I knew anything about the fact that you're not allowed to film. I'm just going to stand here briefly inside the Royal Garden Hotel to get out of the wind for a moment so you guys can hear me. I did, before I knew that you couldn't film or take any pictures, I did have a stroll along that street before Christmas. Unfortunately, completely my error, I forgot to switch the camera off. So, you know, it was very bad luck that I recorded the whole street. And that video of Kensington Palace Gardens, it's called, a walk along Kensington Palace Gardens, is, again, folks, it's on my YouTube channel. If you click on my TikTok bio, click through, look for a walk along Kensington Palace Gardens. I think the video is titled something along the lines of, "This house will cost you £100 million." That was my tour of Kensington Palace Gardens. Yeah, I feel guilty that I forgot to switch off the camera, but it happens, you know. Okay, let's continue. Okay, the street off to my left, I can't go there because it's private, right here. That is the entrance to Kensington Palace. Next to it we've got Percy's. It's just a sort of a kind of a naff cocktail bar. It's only relevant because of where it is, not what it is. Yeah, as you can see, it says private road. Arm Place at the top. That is the entrance, folks. I'm okay right now because I'm still on the public highway. That is the entrance into Kensington Palace here on High Street, Kensington. If I pan around now the security guy has decided to get lost. He's not following me anymore. We can see behind, looking back down Kensington High Street toward the tube station, panning around. The building in the centre of the frame, which you can see the Union Jack in front of, that's actually the Milestone Hotel. And again, a very nice hotel with great views. If you're staying on the upper floors, great views over the park, as you can see. So I'm standing literally right in front of the entrance to the park. People in front of me are now going into the park. Of course, we have a red phone box. And voila, here we are, people. And look at those greens. This is to give you an idea of, you know, this is not going to be a park tour. There is a park tour on my YouTube channel. The park is massive. I could spend literally half the day here and not see all of it. There's a map of the park. You can see how vast it is, especially the area when you walk around the Serpentine, when you walk around the lake. It's enormous. Hyde Park is absolutely enormous. I don't know how many square miles, but plenty. Anyway, so as you can see, it's signposted Kensington Gardens, and that's because we're at the garden end. And in a moment I will pan the camera around and you can see the palace, which we will walk toward. Here we go. Look at the sky and those greens. That's the palace over there. I'm just debating actually whether we should go through the middle or actually, yeah, let's avoid the long walk along the wall. We'll go straight through the middle, directly toward the palace, and then we can double back. It'll bring us out opposite the Royal Albert Hall, at which point we'll go slightly back toward High Street Ken, and then begin the journey through from High Street Ken down to, well, first of all, it'll be Gloucester Road, and after Gloucester Road, it'll be South Ken. Lots of people here, obviously, with their dogs, etc., as well as walking children and babies. Today's a school day, so you won't see many kids about, which is actually a good thing. This is sort of the classic Instagrammed view here with a sort of boulevard. And it is rather nice, isn't it? You can see why it's important to make the most of days like this when we have clear skies here in London, because at this time of the year it's very rare. 1 day in 7 if you're lucky. What's for lunch? It depends who's home. Perhaps I'll ask Prince William if he wants to cook me some eggs on toast. Okay, let's continue walking toward the palace. And again, this is not going to be a park tour. We'll have a look at the palace as we're here, and then we'll head back out and continue our urban exploration. The gold leaf on the gates is going to absolutely, and it's really sparkling already, it's going to absolutely sparkle in this light. We caught the light at the right moment. Don't forget the palace is directly facing south. Isn't it wonderful? I'm going to pause there for a moment in case anybody wants to screenshot or enjoy that splendid view over the palace. It's a very nice day actually. At the moment there's very little breeze. I think it's roughly, when I checked this morning, it said it was going to be 10 degrees. It feels like 10 degrees actually. It certainly isn't warm, but at the same time I'm feeling no coldness on my hands. Yes, Kensington Palace here in London's Kensington, W8. I'm glad you found the YouTube video. It was a little naughty, but again, it was my oversight. If only I remembered to switch off the camera, then the video would never have appeared. But alas, it did. And there we are. I was very careful though, even though I didn't know we were recording, not to go anywhere near certain embassies for obvious reasons. We saw, I was on the public highway when that Israeli plainclothes guy stopped me a little while ago, or spoke to me a little while ago, and said no filming. Odd actually that he said that, because I could have told him, look, I'm on the public highway, but is there any point in arguing? Fundamentally no. He could have, Krav Maga'd me, so I'd rather not end up in hospital. Better just to agree and move on. But yes, isn't it lovely against that sky? And the grass is it's super. We've had a lot of rain in the last week or so, so you can see the park. Thinking back to a couple of months ago, actually, the park, this entire park was absolutely parched. I will gently pan around. I think you guys have had enough of the palace. The entire park was parched. This was all yellow and rough brown hues, but it's really come back to life massively. Again, I'm avoiding going directly into the sunshine here because it will blind us all, me included. But it's going to be, if this wet weather continues, it's going to be a sensational spring here in London. Once the blooms begin very soon, it's going to explode back to life, especially, and this is why I do massively recommend it over the other parks. Holland Park, where we started today, has some of the finest gardens in London. Magnificent blooms, glorious colours, and people will literally spend an entire day sitting there reading a book or having some food or whatever in the garden, enjoying the flowers. You can just sit there and you don't even need to look. You can just sit there and smell those flowers. Enormous gardens with many thousands of flowers. Thoroughly beautiful, really beautiful. I'm going to walk around, in fact. So we've seen the palace, and there we are. That's the final shot of the palace, which is pretty much central on the frame. Gimbal's working well today, which is nice. I'm going to walk along here out of this entrance and then back down onto the High Street to continue the journey toward Gloucester Road. Obviously making very, very much taking caution to make sure that I don't bump into any more security figures. You also get a lot of just like in Regent's Park, because of Winstanley House, where the US ambassador lives in London, you get a lot of undercover US personnel in the main parks here, in Hyde Park and in Regent's Park. So if I do get stopped, or the camera for whatever reason is you see the way he looks at the glance at the camera, if the live does end for any reason or I have to pause it, that will be the only reason. It's because somebody in plain clothes has asked me to do so. I'm not going to exit here because this will take us onto the street he just told me not to film on. So it's better that we don't. Plus I'll need to walk past the police checkpoint if I go out this way. So instead of going out here onto Kensington Palace Gardens, I mean, you can see how magnificent it is just from this view. The secondary gate in the distance is the one that goes onto the gardens, etc. And yes, it's rather wonderful and incredibly expensive. So we're going to go this way, which will take us back to the gate that we entered the park in, also keep us kind of out of the sun-ish. So we're going to get a little bit of glare, people. I'm sorry about that. Nothing I can do. Whenever we're going to be heading south or southwest during this walk, we are going to get a little bit of glare. But I'd rather have that than no sunshine. Welcome to anyone that's just joining. To confirm, we're walking away from Kensington Palace towards Kensington High Street. Those chaps, that's a fitness routine, sorry. They're not actually doing anything they shouldn't be doing. You get a lot of people, a lot of personal trainers bring their customers here into the park, etc. for a morning workout, especially on days like this. They drag lazy people out of the gym and into the fresh air. As you can see, we're approaching the High Street again. The architecture in this part of Kensington is interesting. The High Street itself is unremarkable. There are a few very grand buildings and it's a very expensive place to live. But it's when you sort of venture off the High Street onto the smaller side streets and squares, the garden squares, that you really understand why, you know, Kensington is, it's so renowned, even more so than Chelsea in some ways. I do personally like Chelsea very much, but overall Kensington tops it. That's it, we should be okay with the sunshine now. Reasonable hotels, it depends, you know. It's always a difficult decision. Do you take a hotel very close to all the places you want to see and commute a tiny bit, or do you just go all out and stay as close as possible to where you want to be spending your time? In terms of reasonable hotels, to be honest, you know, the idea of a reasonable hotel in central London is a little bit of an oxymoron. I would personally do one of two things. I would either look for deals way in advance and snap them up quick on booking.com, or if I can't find something suitable on booking.com, I would 100% go for sorry, the guy just paused to put his hood on because he saw that I was filming. I would defer, in fact, if I had the choice, I would defer to an Airbnb, 100%. We're going to get back out in a moment, guys. I would definitely choose an Airbnb instead for two reasons. Depending on the time of year that you're planning on travelling, you can often get a very reasonable Airbnb, the whole apartment, 1 or 2 bedroom apartment to yourself. That's useful because it also means that, you know, if you're travelling on a budget, it's very easy to shop and cook in your Airbnb as opposed to needing to go out to eat 2 or 3 times every day during the journey. So I would always go with an Airbnb option. You know, there are a lot, and some of them are very reasonably priced. I'm going to attempt to cross over now while we have a very brief lull in the traffic. Oh, he spoke too soon. Now we're stuck in the middle. One moment. Actually, we're good. Another famous restaurant, actually, this Indian restaurant is very famous. It's Zyka, as you can see directly in front. Looks grand, but it's not, you know, super expensive. For this area, it's reasonable.
I just like don't know.
None of the other restaurants here are remarkable in any way. They're just tourist traps, expensive, food generally bad. There is one exception, which I'll show you in a minute. It might not be open, which will be a good thing because then I can actually I can film it and you guys can see it. Notice the police are coming back out of Kensington Palace Gardens. Let me focus. So this restaurant that I'm about to walk past might be open, I don't know, let's see. Oh, in fact it is. This restaurant is a great choice for 3 reasons, okay? 1, the location. It's directly opposite Kensington Palace Gardens. 2, it's very, very inexpensive. And by that I mean it's basically a bargain. 10 or 12 pounds to eat here per person, that's it. You know, it's literally the cheapest sit-down dining experience in Kensington. And thirdly, the food's great. How to tell a good Chinese restaurant? If you walk past and most of the people in the restaurant are Chinese, you know the food is good. Simple as that. This one's great. This I would actually put above any other Chinese restaurant in Chinatown, for example. The only exceptions would be, for example, Royal China or, you know, the fine dining Chinese establishments. But yeah, Stick and Bowl, as it says on the sign, been in London since 1971. It's still here and people love it, including me. Okay, so we're now going to cut through and finally get away from this madness and the traffic. As you guys can see, postcode is W8, Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. We are now walking down onto Kensington Court, which is a small pedestrianised street running between the shops. Very quaint. I think I can squeeze between these flower pots. Yeah, I can. It's very much going to be a sort of a walk and see in terms of the streets here, for 2 reasons. 1, wherever I go, there's going to be something interesting. As you can already see, look, you know, just a random street, blah, blah, blah. The architecture is magnificent. So I would sort of head toward whatever looks interesting or unusual or particularly unique. We have a little place there. There's, I think it's an Iranian consulate or something. There have been a lot of Iranian protesters here in the last couple of weeks, etc. Actually, they're glaring at me. Please don't come and talk to me. Okay, let's carry on down here. These are the sorts of residential buildings that you'll get on a street like this. Kensington House. Isn't it grand? Look. It actually looks like a castle. It has turrets. In some ways it resembles some of the colleges in Oxford. Beautiful. It's just a simple and actually fairly typical residential building in this part of London. Yeah, very nice. I've got people peering out of the consulate behind me, actually. You need to be super careful. There are so many consulates, and if they want to, they can come out and be a little bit fussy. But they can't actually legally tell me to stop filming, not from the public highway. So let's continue here. I'm walking down the middle of the street, not because I have any kind of desire to get injured, but because it provides the best view. UPS. Yeah, most of these are rentals. Most of these are not owned outright. And I would think as a minimum, even a 1 bed in one of these buildings, I mean, look how grand the buildings are. Even a 1 bed would be probably £1 million, 1.5. One benefit though to living here, not just this street but most of them, is that you can get a residence parking permit. So almost everyone that's parked here parks pretty much for free. Definite benefit of having a tenancy agreement or owning a property in the centre. Got the mailman who just decided to stick his van right on the corner, don't even bother parking it. Again, we're going to go into the direct sunshine in a moment. Let me just pan around to the other street looking upward, back toward the High Street. Beautiful light. Let's pan around again. And yes, we are not going to be able to avoid the sun entirely going down here, unfortunately, but it won't be for very long, and because we'll be cutting through to the left. There's an interesting little street here. It's a private street, but I don't think at this time of the day anyone's going to really care. It's called Kensington Court Mews, and it's somewhat unique. Let me show you why. You wouldn't think it was rather grand or particularly expensive, would you? But it is. as you can see, is private. So you get a little mews house. In fact, it looks like an open-air prison, doesn't it, in some ways?
Yeah.
Even though the buildings are rather nice. Yeah, I have no idea, in fact, why you would actively choose to live there as opposed to out here. They're probably equally expensive. What I will do as we're here, and to avoid the sunshine briefly, I'll cut across here. This is Thackeray Street. I'm pretty sure it leads on to Kensington Square, which is definitely one of my favourite squares here. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's straight ahead toward the High Street, so we slowly go around to the left. I would stop and look in the agent's window for property prices. Wait, let me just have a look without actively filming with the agents. Okay, Kensington Court, 2-bed. There we are, Kensington Court 2-bed, if anyone is curious, at 1.69 million for a 2-bed on Kensington Court, where we just came from. This is the square, a very grand square. Every building on the square is different. If I pan around, it's a great square to walk around at night, in fact. It is reasonably well lit. If you can see, the street furniture is particularly ornate in the borough, but if you can see in the middle, the green lamppost, they're everywhere here. To get access to the centre, you need to live here. In other words, to be able to use the garden square in the middle, you need to be a resident, either own or rent here. Pay a fee for what's called a garden key, probably $1,000, $2,000 a year, and then you get this enormous garden in the centre. Most of the time, you'll probably get it all to yourself, to be honest, because most people that live here are not here very often. They are typically foreign residents who spend some time in London and most of the time at their other properties. So there's a definite benefit, if you win the lottery and buy a property somewhere like this, you get the garden thrown in. Okay, let's continue. Esmond Court, it's rather grand. In fact, Joan Sims lived here at some point, according to the plaque. If anyone doesn't know who Joan Sims is, I'm sure that most of you will be familiar with the series of I think they were late 70s, maybe late 60s, late 60s, early 70s, the Carry On films, with Sid James and Bernard Bresslaw and Joan Sims, etc. Somebody decided to come along and buy some equipment for their horse, Riders and Squires. It's a horse and polo outfitter. It's also a parking spot for someone's Bentley at the moment. Notice that some of the shops and cafes and restaurants here decide to use net curtains to protect their guests. The mailman just picking a good spot to deliver to the shops here. Okay, let's continue around here. Luckily the sun is somewhat less bright. Cross over and we should be able to avoid it entirely. We are now sort of midway between High Street Kensington and Gloucester Road. We'll see Gloucester Road in a few minutes. As we get to the top here, I will take a left. Actually going to need to squeeze through. Scaffolders have closed the road. And again, apologies for the wind noise. There's no way of doing anything with that when you're filming on a phone. Okay, that's it, right. So we're just approaching St Albans Grove, walking along Kensington Court Place. This little spot is pretty popular of a spring and summer evening for two reasons. Obviously, there are a lot of restaurants, etc., and cafes on the side streets, but there are a lot of should we say, lesser known public houses. Builders Arms being a good example in front. This is always very, very busy outside, and indeed inside. Locals. These are locals pubs. So, you know, people that live in these rather nice villas and swish ported buildings, they will tend to congregate at the local pubs, the lesser known pubs off of the main tourist strips. Good example here. I was talking about getting a permit before. That's what I meant. Resident permit holders only for parking. A lot of people here have enough space to take their vehicle off the street, or partially off the street. Okay, we're going to go past an interesting little spot in a moment. There's sort of a mini roundabout in the centre of the street up here, and a couple of well-known restaurants, and then it's the last part of this street until we will enter the crossing that is Gloucester Road tube station. I still have no idea what that is. I think it's an old telephone exchange. The building for some reason has a plaque, but it's a curious one, this building. Never see anyone go in or out, but it's definitely being used for something. This is actually Victoria Road, if anyone is curious. Just approaching it now, you can see it over there on the street sign. Victoria Road. A rather grand street. And we're still, as you can see from the postcode, in Kensington WA, in other words, the High Street Kensington area. That will shortly change. We will shortly be leaving this postal code area. And I'll point it out once we cross over into SW7, which is traditionally speaking the the South Kensington postal district. Again, this is looking toward Canning Place. A lot of sort of little curbs and step-ups, step-downs around here. So if I'm sort of not glancing at the comments, folks, apologies. It's because I'm focusing very much on my footsteps. Yeah, this little spot. I think the main reason this is well known is because of the restaurant. Launceston Place, as you can see directly opposite, is definitely one of Kensington's. I wouldn't say exclusive, that's the wrong word. One of Kensington's most respected fine dining establishments, that's how I would describe it. Super service, super food, very discreet, and most of the time you will simply see either couples or elderly locals, very, very rich people that, you know what, they think, hey, I can't be bothered to have a kitchen or cook, I'll just go across the street to Launceston Place and spend 300 quid for dinner. It is nice. I mean, the food is spectacular. It's expensive, but it's one of those rare exceptions where it's worth it. Okay, so this final little part here, it's one way, so any vehicle coming along, one moment. This is my favourite house on the street, Albert Lodge. Love this one. It's a detached property, beautiful, wrought iron gates. I mean, you know, obviously you're going to have your Bentley parts at the side, just in case you need to pop out to Asda, Lidl, or another inexpensive supermarket. The restaurant is called Launceston Place, Launceston, Launceston Place. I would say that, let me think, of the fine dining establishments in Kensington, I would say Launceston Place or Kitchen W8. Zyka is pretty good as well. The Ivy on High Street, Kensington. You've got a very wide choice of dining options here. There are plenty of fine dining establishments, but there are also plenty, as we saw, Stick and Bowl, the Chinese on the High Street. Plenty of inexpensive options in High Street Kensington, which is good actually, because good luck finding similar value when you get to King's Road or Sloane Square, as we'll see a little bit later. That's where we're heading today. In a moment, we are going to cross over. The street in front, running left to right, is in fact Gloucester Road. And we're shortly going to cross that. A bit tight here, one second. Oh, I was worried about exactly that happening. Very windy, isn't it, today? Okay, so here we are. Sorry, the chap's cap just blew off on the floor. I was thinking, God, I hope that doesn't happen to me. I forgot to wash or comb my hair this morning. Anyway, so this is Gloucester Road. Sorry, wait for the traffic to move. I'll pan around. Watching from Bhutan, the Kingdom of Bhutan. Goodness me, welcome. I think you're the first person ever that's informed me that they're watching from Bhutan. A very warm welcome from London. This is looking southbound along Gloucester Road. This will take us. We're not going that way, but generally in that direction we're going to go. That'll take us towards South Kensington and Chelsea beyond. In front of us is part of the reason that we're here. You'll see why in a minute. This incident on the corner, another tourist trap. It is a pretty good pizzeria. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to tell you that it's horrible. It's called De Mario, and it's not bad at all actually. I don't like the fact they bothered to have Princess Diana written on the steps. It has no bearing whatsoever to the restaurant. But again, tourist trap. Personally, and I'm not joking here, if it were a choice between going in there and paying, I don't know, 80 quid for a pizza, or going to Faraway next door, I would actually go to Faraway. In fact, I often do go to Faraway. Faraway is super inexpensive. The guys in there, bizarrely enough, actually, it's an Italian pizzeria, but it's run by a couple of Arab guys who are lovely. It's a funny one, that, because I did say to them, I remember going the first time, I said, guys, are you happy serving pizza with salami and stuff? I mean, I would have thought it would be halal only. They're like, no, it's fine, etc. It's work. It's not something that we're going to eat. Fair enough. Their pizzeria, their choice. But it was nice that they were so sort of upfront about it and willing to talk about that. Okay, so we're going to cross over. I'm literally just waiting for the traffic to stop, and now we have a spot. Okay, we're going across now onto. We're going to start getting to the super prime and super famous parts of this part of London. Two things. First of all, we are now in a different postal code area. Within the space of one street, we went from W8, which was over there. We just came out of Victoria Grove, crossed over Cromwell Road, and we're now on, I can't remember if it's Queensgate Terrace, I think it is. Look at this street, look at the architecture on this street. It's a very, very glamorous street. Very glamorous. Okay, let's attempt to cut across. One thing we will notice actually as we're going along here is there are lots of smaller streets and a lot of mews streets. Some of them are very interesting and I will stop and explore, as I often do. Others I will simply skip. Why? Because there are too many. I could actually do literally a 10-hour guided tour of the mews of Kensington and Chelsea. There are dozens of them, and they're all unique, and the architecture is wonderful. But in terms of bearing in mind that the rain is forecast for 2 p.m, it's now 1 p.m. I'm going to press on. Directly in front, in the middle of the frame, is one of the buildings that comprise Imperial College. Probably the best university in London. I mean, it's a science and engineering university, but it's probably the best overall, followed closely by LSE. You can see any of the streets where you have the numbers painted by hand on the columns, you know, equals wealth, affluence. That said, many of these, I mean, they're enormous. Okay, they're 7 or 8 floors. Many of these have already been chopped up into smaller apartments. I don't know 100%. I don't think anyone would ever know, as it's not a matter of public record. But there are probably very few, if any, that are still one single residence on this street. If a 2-bed is going to cost around 2 to 3 million, a whole house, which would be something like 10 to 12 bedrooms, would be well north of 10. It is a magnificent street. See those clouds? We definitely caught the sunshine, didn't we? We got super lucky with the sunshine at the beginning. It's still bright, so I'm going to press on. Common sight here in London, the Amazon Prime man. In fact, as ubiquitous these days as the Royal Mail. Buckingham Palace. It's good that you asked me that. Yesterday, and on Sunday, and on Friday, in all of the last 3 lives, we were at or visited Buckingham Palace. So right now, I'm pretty far from Buckingham Palace. Another very beautiful Mews Street in the centre of the frame. So regrettably, yes, we won't be going back to the palace today. I'm at the palace an awful lot, so much actually, that I dare say somebody's going to ask me soon what I'm doing there. Plus, to be honest, you know, us mere mortals can never hope to live anywhere near Buckingham Palace, but we can all aspire to live in one of these rather fine villas at some point, if we win the lottery or the Powerball. Okay, so yes, I was right, it's Queensgate Terrace. Now we're going to cross over, in fact, onto one of the most well-known streets in the SW7 postcode. This is Queensgate. Why is it famous? Well, if I go into the middle-ish, a lot of oncoming traffic. If you see directly in front, I'm not sure if you can, it's pretty far away, you can see the gate, the red gate, very far in the distance at the top of Queensgate. That is a gate directly into Hyde Park, where we were a short while ago when we had a look at Kensington Palace. As mentioned when I was walking along, this is one of the buildings, I don't know which one it is, whether it's the engineering department. This is part of University College London. And looking southbound, as I am at the moment, the camera is now pointing southbound. This is looking toward South Kensington, which is where our journey is going to take us in just a moment. Okay, so for example, we have a lot of consulates and embassies here. This one is the Bangladeshi High Commission. I don't know, and will not profess to know each individual flag. I mean, obviously I know that flag. What's this one? In fact, this is the Royal Thai Embassy. Hello to anyone watching from Thailand. Just pointing out the fact that, the consular section. Lots of embassies and consulates on this street. Hence the fact it looks so incredibly grand. In fact, the Thai Embassy is probably the nicest building on the street. Looking at it, actually, it definitely is 100%. 100%. Wind's picking up again. Good Lord, you see how temperamental the weather is in London. Literally 45 minutes ago we were in, we could have been in the Bahamas, it was so sunny. And now it's not. London, you've got to love it. Okay, crossing over Queensgate. And again, these buildings here are all form part of Imperial College. I don't know if you guys can make it out. South Kensington campus, Imperial College London. I can cross, it's a level crossing. I'm not going to go in because I'm not a student, but anyway, that's one of the main entrances into Imperial College. super buildings. Panning around. Okay, that's it. Actually, I'm going to walk outside the barrier. There's a family with young children coming. I'm going to actively avoid putting them in the centre of the frame. If you can make out from the sign there in the centre, we're now officially crossing. You know, it's odd. You would never know unless you actually notice the sign. I didn't even notice it until I panned. It says there in front of us, South Kensington. So, you know, 5 footsteps from where I am now, we're going to officially be in South Kensington. And boom, that's it. We're now officially. It's as easy as that. Moving from one district to the other. It's literally either crossing a street or a few footsteps. On one street, and boom, you're in an entirely different district, even though nothing fundamentally has changed. The architecture is still equally grand, as you can see. Again, this building is part of Imperial College, etc. as we walk along. Chap in the middle of the street there is obviously looking for cars to ticket. Again, yet more of Imperial College. It's an enormous university. Many buildings. It goes way back, even from what we're looking at now. Very expensive to study there as a foreign student. Incredibly expensive. Can anyone guess what that building is? In the centre, not the small one, the one with the spires poking out that adjoins Imperial College. Who knows what that is? Sorry, just looking at the comments now. We are still in Kensington, but we've left W8, which is High Street Kensington, and we've already crossed into South Kensington, which is the postal district of Southwest 7, SW7. Is South Kensington. Anyone? What's this? Harry. Hogwarts house. No, it's not that. You'll all recognise it in a moment when we go around the corner. Although for some peculiar reason, I'm going to probably give it away now, they traditionally at Christmas have an ice skating rink outside this building, but for some reason this year they chose not to, which was a little bit disappointing. Always enjoyed ice skating here at Christmas, but no ice rink this year. Apparently it's back next year. Okay, now we're getting to super mental, ridiculously busy interchange here. This is Cromwell Road, notoriously busy. It's one of the main routes out from central London and Knightsbridge that goes out toward Earls Court, Hammersmith and then Heathrow beyond. It joins the Cromwell Road in the distance, where we came from a little earlier, and Queensgate continues southbound along here. We're going to go this way and cut through. For two reasons. One, you'll see the view in a moment, and also it'll take us directly to South Kensington Station, South Ken, and then to Chelsea. Was at Piccadilly Circus yesterday. Definitely won't make it back to Piccadilly Circus today. Today is more of the rich parts of London tour. Kensington, Chelsea, and most likely, weather permitting, Knightsbridge. But we'll see. I'll be back at Piccadilly Circus again probably tomorrow or the day after. I'm there almost every other day. So anyone that's new, that's asking about Buckingham Palace or Piccadilly Circus, etc., don't worry. We'll be back there very soon. Huge amount of work going on here. I don't know what they're constructing currently, but that might explain why there was no ice rink. And this building Let's go along. Very grand Gothic building. Thank you. Yeah, definitely being safe. Don't worry. It's always a pleasure to walk in this part of London. This, folks, I'm going to attempt to peer through the gates. Bearing in mind I've got two cameras in my hand right now. It's the Natural History Museum. Apologies if the view isn't crystal clear through the gates. We're not going to go in, but yeah, that's the Natural History Museum, one of London, in fact one of the world's most famous museums. Enormous, grand museum, as you can see. The Natural History Museum. I mean, from this angle it's almost as spectacular as Westminster Abbey. It isn't terribly busy inside today, again because it's a school day here in London, a normal day, so not terribly busy, but a fabulous museum. Definitely not a place to go either during the summer holidays or at Easter. The queues, I'm not kidding, the queues, you'll queue for 1 to 2 hours to get in. It's incredibly popular because it's a wonderful museum. I'm crossing over Cromwell Road simply to get a couple of better shots of the museum, and then we will double back very slightly for a few minutes and cut through towards South Kensington. It is, yes, reading the comments, it is a free museum, and of course that is partly why it's so incredibly popular. It's very much a day out. The museum is enormous. There is so much to see, and even for small children, it's a wonderful experience. Along with the Science Museum, definitely one of the best museums, not just in London but in the world. Okay, this gives us a somewhat better view. Again, I'm not going to go in, there's no point, because we're not going to see anything better than we can see from this side. The main gate here in the middle, as you can see, it's open, people are coming in and out. If I pan somewhat, being conscious of two cameras here. And you can see how busy this road is in front. Cromwell Road is just ridiculous. It's amazing how well the stonework looks on the museum, considering the sheer volume of traffic that is 24 hours a day going along this road. It's a French consulate right in front on the corner. This area, this neighbourhood, SW7 South Ken, is very, very popular with the French. As you can see, another French building, French consulate building behind me. It's always been popular with the French for two reasons. One, there is a lycée. The lycée Charles de Gaulle is in South Ken. So, for example, you're going to move to London from Paris or wherever in France, you can give your children exactly the same education they would receive in France, including teaching in French at the lycée. So of course that's why the area became ridiculously popular with the French. Other reason, of course, being that it's a very, very, very safe and expensive neighbourhood. In fact, it's so safe and so expensive, and the school is so popular that most French now don't move to this area. They've started instead moving primarily to Marylebone High Street, W1. That's also now very much a francophone part of London. Okay, so final shot of the Natural History Museum on the corner before we say goodbye and turn left. Thank you for... I should pronounce it well. My ex of 4 years was French. So if you're watching, salut toi. She would probably be very disappointed. Could I not pronounce a few words relatively well in French? Okay. What is the two cities in London? I'm sorry. What do you mean the two cities? Is this city or sorry? I'm not quite sure. 1 second. I was lucky to have her, and she was lucky to have me. Still a very important person in my life. 1 second. There we are. And as you can see, we have the Institut Français here. Institut Français, sorry, not 16, Français. Okay, that's a very good question. I'm often asked that, these houses, okay, do individual people own these houses? The answer to that question is, more often than not, no, not anymore, okay? A lot of them are still single residences. These houses here, almost certainly, I would have thought, if maybe one or two of them, single residences. You can often tell, with the care that's taken to the external appearance. This one in front, for example, look at how well maintained it is. Each of the planters is very, very nice and neat. They've even put planters up the stairs going to the main door. They even have a little garden up there on the balcony. So that almost certainly is an individual private residence. The other ones that look a little bit more grotty, so they've likely been divided up into smaller residences. Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories. These are. There's a basement level, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 6. And a horrid roof level. The roof level is, I say horrid because not only are these buildings walk-ups, they have no lifts. Okay, none of these buildings have a lift. None of them. So imagine getting back with your shopping or whatever, or after a long day at work, or after you've just done a 7-hour walk for London City Walks, and then you need to face the prospect of going up what will be 12 flights of stairs. Especially also to bear in mind, when you move into these kind of buildings where there's no lift, the removal costs are horrendous. Because in London, they don't just charge for, removing your stuff from A to B. They also add on additional charges. And the first question they ask you is, which floors? Understandably and fairly, if you're going to be carrying stuff all the way up to the top floor, that's a hell of a lot of work. It's not the same as just unloading it from the van straight through the door. So that's something else to bear in mind with these properties. Living up on the top floor, incredibly hot and humid in the summer. And very expensive, very expensive to move your stuff. Also, some of them, I know this from talking with removal men at various points when I've moved around central London. Some of them, the access is very odd, especially some of the basement apartments. And by that I mean that, with the iron staircases and so on that go down, sometimes they are so incredibly tight and small that it's impossible, for example, to get a wardrobe around the corner, or it's impossible to get a double bed around the corner. It's just the tightness of the turn. So often people are disappointed when the removal guys say, look, I'm very sorry, but this item is not going to fit. What would you like us to do with it? And it's funny because sometimes you will see odd items of furniture left on the street. That's often why it wouldn't fit. And people just decide, you know what, fine, I'll just bin it. Okay, just a moment, we're going to walk along here. This will take us directly, this street that we're on at the moment, will take us directly to the South Kensington tube station. Wow, goodness, 27 years in South Ken. And then he's watching for the sunshine. Brave decision, I'm sure you don't regret it. Beautiful as South Ken is, it's ridiculously overpriced. And it's the population density here is far higher than High Street Kensington, where we were before. And here it is, guys. I'm probably filming myself, but never mind. That's the Lycée Français Charles de Gaulle. Moments from all of those very nice houses, all of the shops in front, many of which are French, and of course that rather wonderful tube station. Why is it wonderful? For two reasons. One, it has District Line, Circle Line and Piccadilly Line, so you go directly to Leicester Square or Piccadilly Circus from here, no changes. Alternatively, you can go in the opposite direction, straight down toward toward Heathrow on the Piccadilly line. I'm not going to pan around onto Queensbury Place because this is another entrance to the lycée, and at the moment the children are outside playing. As you can see just over there, now in the centre of the train, that is in fact South Kensington Tube Station. Notice the names of some of the shops along here. We have Maitre Choux. This is a residential building, in fact, the Cheval Harrington Court. We've got Cocotte next to it. We have a French bookshop, Librairie Le Page. Then we have a couple of Lebanese, and there's a Chinese, etc. It used to be, it's gone now, until quite recently, in fact last year, there was a wonderful shop here, Le Cave, I think it's Le Cave au Fromage, Le Cave du Fromage, I can't remember which. A beautiful fromagerie that was over on the corner. It's now gone, unfortunately. But this spot, if I pan to my left, sorry, that's another view up toward the Natural History Museum. Going across, you can see Cromwell Place, which is the main road we're standing on now. The view at the moment is southbound. Beyond this building in front, not terribly far beyond, is Chelsea, Sloane Square, King's Road, which is where we will be heading for our third stage quite soon, if I get across the road in one piece. Okay, that's it. This is Thurloe Street. Very popular little street here, one because it's pedestrianised, and two because it has a lot of interesting places, including here. The majority of people, in fact, walking around this area, the vast majority of people in this area are speaking either Spanish or French. Compare that to where we were before, High Street, Kent, W8, vast majority of people are speaking Russian and are from the US. So it's interesting how the districts tend to differ somewhat in terms of the population that chooses to live there. Charity collectors out, etc., from Age Concern and other charities. Real menace on the streets here in central London. Another great place for very quick, fast food. Chopsticks Noodle Bar, love it. But lots of takeaways, lots of little small places here. Honest Burgers, Bookshop. What's this? Deckies at the end. Thurloe Street continues. It's a residential street, a very, very, very expensive residential street. I personally would not want to live at this end of it, simply because as I pan the second, you'll see how ridiculously busy it is. It looks kind of, quiet and serene and wealthy and affluent and an ideal place to live, but it's not, and this is why. Look. Okay, why is that a problem? It's not a problem, per se. It's the fact that in the summer, this area is ridiculously popular, ridiculously busy. You can see how much outside dining there is. So if you live here in the houses behind me, good luck with getting any sleep. And just beyond are the other buildings of Imperial College. So an absolutely enormous and generally very, very wealthy student population. So as well as the French families that choose to move here and send their children to the lycée, you have all of the people that are at Imperial. Most people that study at Imperial live locally. If I walk up, I'm not going to because we're going to be going directly in the opposite direction. Were I to walk up there, past the main entrance into Imperial College, typically on an evening you will see Ferraris, Rolls-Royce, other cars. In other words, your typical student vehicles that are just casually parked outside Imperial College. Even though the sky looks a bit menacing, we've still got great light here, no sign of rain yet, so let's press on toward Chelsea. Sorry? Trying to avoid eye contact with the charity collectors. Last thing we need is somebody coming on asking me for a donation to nameless charity. live on TikTok. There they are, look. This is the quite grand entrance into the tube station. It is a grand one, this, actually. Definitely more grand than High Street Ken, and definitely more grand than Sloane Square, where we'll be going shortly. The other thing is that High Street Kensington, where we came from, where this began, it's not quite a branch line, but the services are less frequent. They go between Paddington and Edgware Road in the north, and South Ken and Gloucester Road in the south. In other words, you've only got Circle Line and District Line, and that part of the tube is often closed for engineering works at the weekend, which is incredibly annoying, but there we are. Plus you can also go from High Street Ken directly to Westminster, which is great, for example, for Big Ben and House of Parliament and so on. So yeah, panning back across over Cromwell Place, entrance to the tube station. We will walk straight through because it will take us out onto the other side.
Customer announcement. If there is a night soon road on the station, please make yourself known to a member staff.
That's back on again and recording, so we've now got two. The live and the YouTube happily recording side by side. Make sure we've got enough cabling so I don't pull it off the tripod. Okay, that's good. Let's head off again. So we're going to walk along Pelham Crescent here. Toward Chelsea. Welcome, joining from Tallahassee, goodness. It makes you want to play Monopoly. To be fair, most of the Monopoly spots are in the centre, Park Lane, Mayfair, etc., being the most notable and obviously the most expensive as well. In fact, by far, actually. Okay, let's see where we end up at the end of the street here. There's social housing directly in front. And this brings us directly out of Pelham Crescent. We're still not sure if you guys can make it out. Pelham Crescent that we just left was still SW7. Okay, it was still officially the South Kensington Postal District, Southwest 7. It still is. Where I'm standing now is Southwest 7. If you look across there, I'm not sure if you guys can see it underneath the Michelin, the Michelin tiling on the wall there. Lucan Place. Why is that remarkable? It's a new district. SW3. Okay, SW3 covers the King's Road to Sloane Square northern end of King's Road. The bottom end of King's Road then becomes SW10, and we're not going there. There's nothing there of interest. So now we're going to head down into Chelsea. SW3 to King's Road, Duke of York Square, Sloane Square, etc. And again, weather permitting, we will then go from Sloane Square toward Knightsbridge. And we all know what's in Knightsbridge, don't we, folks? Okay, so I'm now officially in Chelsea. Look at that. Across one street, and I've gone from South Ken to Chelsea. This incident is Bibendum. Restaurant, flower shop, etc. Oyster bar, the rest of it. Very nice. Very swish. So, Sloane Avenue in front of us. I'm not going to tell you guys why Sloane Avenue is, in some respects, that's a very nice car. In some respects, what should we say, dubious. You can find that out yourselves with Google. There's certain topics I'm not going to address in the lives. But as you can see, Pelham Street, Pelham Crescent, where we just came from, SW7 across the road there, Brompton Road here, which goes back up toward Knightsbridge, SW3, and Sloane Avenue, which is where we're going to go now toward Chelsea, also SW3. We're now walking southbound, directly from South Ken toward Chelsea. Sloane Square, Chelsea, same thing, sort of interchangeable. Sloane Square is the tube station at the absolute northern end of King's Road. A very grand part of London, as you'll see when we get there. Should see some interestingly dressed ladies and gentlemen as well in this part of London, especially once we get closer to King's Road. She was not keen on being filmed, but anyway, it is what it is. Okay, let's continue. Notice that bus is going to the Royal Albert Hall. Again, any of the streets off to my left or right are extremely nice. We could walk down each and every one of them and never see the same thing twice, simply because architecturally they're all quite unique. Ixworth Place. Again, this goes through towards Knightsbridge. Let's continue. I'm not going to tell you why or what it's infamous or famous for, depending on which way you look at it. But if anyone really wants to know, directly in front of me you can see peeking out a sign on that building that says Chelsea Cloisters. Just above the guy that's walking in the centre of the frame there. See that? There's a Gaucho grill on my right. And yeah, Chelsea Cloisters right here. Okay, Chelsea Cloisters, if you guys can see it, etc. That's Chelsea Cloisters. Inside, as it says, private apartments, blah 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 blah. But if you folks want to Google it, Google why is Chelsea Cloisters famous? You'll be shocked. So let's continue walking south, and very soon we'll be into the grandness of Chelsea. This is still Sloane Avenue. Hello, doggy. Hello, you want to say hi? Hello. Somebody just left their dog while they're shopping. I think we're probably midway down Sloane Avenue right now, so not terribly far. Again, the type of residential buildings, in fact, you'll go on a street like this, quite normal for this area. In fact, that's the car that passed us earlier. Lassian, interesting number plate. Pan across, etc. That's Petty Ward Street we just looked at, and directly across over on the left is another building that's very well known in this area. It's called Nelgwyn House. One moment. Avoiding the traffic. Yeah, Nelgwyn House. Another apartment block, sorry. Serviced apartments. Very nice. Taxi can drop you right outside the door so you don't get wet when you're dropping your shopping at home. What I will do, because it's going to be the most sensible option, crossing over Sloane Avenue here, I'm going to walk onto Whitehead's Grove, which is directly in front of me. And the reason I'm going to do that is, one, because it's very unusual architecturally, this street, but also because it will take us kind of in a small rectangle back toward Sloane Square itself. So a very, 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 very brief detour. Look at these buildings. Look, they are residential. These are people's houses. Whitehead's Grove. Notice how utterly different it is here. Not in a either good or bad way to where we were before. An entirely different style of architecture. This development or complex is known as the Gateways. And as you can see, it is rather grand. It's private, of course. No parking either on the street, even if you live there. Very unusual, very quiet, very private, and probably ridiculously expensive. This is, absolute Chelsea prime, because we're walking parallel to the King's Road right now. It's behind us on my left, but it's much quieter here, and entirely residential, as you can see. Hello everyone, welcome. Just to reiterate, today we started in Kensington. First at High Street, Kensington, then we went all the way toward Cromwell Road. After Cromwell Road came South Ken, which we left a short while ago, and now we've crossed over into Chelsea. This is Chelsea SW3. The wind's really picking up. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. Apologies for the whistling sounds. Whitehead's Grove opens up a little bit here. Really windy. That's where people do their shopping. This is not the King's Road. We'll go there shortly. Looking in front of me directly ahead is Elliston Street. This is Kale Street. And this area itself generally is known as, got the delivery guy here from John Lewis, Peter Jones on Sloane Square. This area, or where I'm standing right now, it's not really green. It's known as Chelsea Green. Most people call this Chelsea Green. People will just stop here to quickly grab something. It's very easy to park here. People after school with their kids or whatever will grab a coffee or some food or a snack, or pick up something for dinner. It's just easy. The King's Road itself is rather awkward to park on, to be honest. It's more of a destination as opposed to a quick stop. So 100%, yeah. But there we are, yeah, Chelsea Green. And notice it's interesting as well because, we have a grocer, we have a salon here, we then have a fishmonger, the Chelsea fishmonger over here, a Maya, no idea what that is. We have a pie shop, the Pie Man. This side we have a cafe, juice and bagels, an estate agency, John D. Wood, and other small independent shops. There's also a pharmacy, etc. over there, Wild Tavern, gastro pub on the corner. It's just a little unusual. It is, and notice that each of the properties is very much different to the next one. Markham Street over here, I'm just deciding which street we should go down to lead to King's Road because they're all in different ways equally remarkable. Let me just have a look at Markham Street and then I'll decide whether it's worth going along Markham Street or Jubilee Place. Cinquecento over here is also super cute. Look at this one with the flowers. Yeah, Jubilee Place is definitely the more interesting choice. Let's go back. Cross over. There we are. Jubilee Place. Why is it the more interesting choice? You'll see in just a moment. Again, apologies for the sound from the wind. This is, again, a beautiful residential street. Along here, most of these are individual private homes. Love the ones with the ivy going up the walls. This is sort of real old Chelsea prime right here. There are more expensive streets in Chelsea, but this for me is quintessentially Chelsea. See an awful lot of Cayennes around here, and these I can't remember what the Lamborghini version is called. This in front of me. Second before the car comes along. Look, some of the houses are very overgrown. Look at this. Some sort of eccentric person lives there and hasn't yet got around to trimming their shrubbery. Okay, that's better. It's a one-way street, so I only need to worry about the traffic coming toward me. Jubilee Cottage is here on the right. You can see how windy it is today, look. So Somebody's motorcycle is going to take off. In fact, you can see some people are still away. A few of the houses still have Christmas wreaths hanging on the door. Too expensive to cut shrubs. It most certainly is, yeah. I wouldn't wish to speculate, but it is a very, 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 very expensive place to live. Especially the most grand, the largest houses on the street. You know, the colours, the ironwork, etc. Spectacular. Only filming that one because it's a building site, no one's living there. Okay, we come out in an absolute perfect spot because we are roughly midway along King's Road. This in front of us, folks, is the King's Road. The super famous King's Road. King's Road, Chelsea. I mean, the most well-known street in Chelsea, without a doubt. King's Road. Might get a little bit awkward here. The pavement is very narrow. So let's see how we go. If we lose a sort of, you know, if the camera loses its axis, that'll be why. That's exactly why I didn't want to walk all the way along. You can see how narrow it is. If I pan this way, this is King's Road going down toward Fulham and SW10. Quite busy actually, certainly traffic wise. And if I turn around past Sticks and Sushi, etc., this part of the King's Road will take us in a moment to Duke of York Square, and then beyond it to Sloane Square. I'm going to take this moment, guys, to quickly plug in the phone. Just a moment. One moment, everyone. Let's hope the live is good. Pop this down, plug this in. It's our usual situation with the power being temperamental, but I think we're fine. Let me reset the camera. One moment. Bingo. Again, it might jig a tiny bit off its axis, as it sometimes does when it's connected, but it'll be okay. And that's it. We're plugged in and ready to go. Again, we are walking fundamentally, let me think, we're walking eastbound actually, walking this way along the King's Road towards Sloane Square. We're walking east. If for any reason the live does get cut off, and I must say on this rather narrow part of King's Road, the mobile reception is patchy occasionally. If for any reason we do end up losing the live, do not worry. I'll be back, you know, virtually immediately. I think we're good, but I'm just mentioning it just in case. See how narrow the streets are. This is, a lot of people like this. It's a very quaint place, especially on a Saturday or when it's sunny. It's always very, very busy here. Lots of individual and unique shops that are a one-off actually can be found here. This is a type of residential street. This is Markham Square, probably one of Chelsea's most expensive squares. What I'll do, one second, manually pan this around. Yeah, Markham Square. And very nice it is too. will very briefly go on to Bywater Street, simply because it's pretty unique actually, even for this area. A little bit like Portobello Road in some respects, but notice the different hues of pastel colours along this street. You know, even on a day like, I would say daylight today, it was sunny earlier, even on a day when we don't have sunshine, you can probably still see that this is a pretty unusual street. And the reason that the houses are painted like this is that whether or not you own it or you're renting it, there will be a stipulation in the title deeds that it has to be X colour. Okay, that's how some of the streets in London end up being like this, and will always be like this, because obviously somebody might decide to move in, hey, I don't want my house to be pink, I want it to be yellow, etc., or vice versa. But no, you don't get a choice. It stays the colour that is specified in the title deeds. Apologies. I know the camera's jigging a little bit here. One, it's the wind. Two, it's the fact that it's plugged into the power. So I'm manually adjusting it when necessary, trying to keep both cameras focused directly ahead. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, those colourful houses. As I mentioned, this is Bywater Street. Can't quite see the street sign. Yeah, it's a lovely street. One of my favourite little streets. Very, very quaint street. Very, very exclusive little street. As you can imagine, those houses on Bywater Street do not come up very often for sale. The wind is really picking up. Okay, let's go around. I'm going to cross over here simply because I know that there's a construction site and the public pathway is much limited. Just a moment. Yeah, that pesky wind is a bit of a problem, isn't it? Apologies, folks. It's the wind really does like to keep knocking the camera off its axis. I'm going to, at least until we get to Duke of Gloucester Square, I'm going to hold it so it can't move off axis, and then check it in a moment when we get there. So if it's slightly jiggy for a moment, I apologise. Better that we at least keep what I can see in the frame. This one's also very nice. This is Royal Avenue, and although all the houses are pretty much the same, the doors are not. For example, the first door is royal blue, the second door is yellow, the third door is red, the fourth door is green. Instead, if we look across this middle ground, it's not, as far as I'm aware, it's not used anymore. I don't recall seeing anyone on horseback here. But in the distance, at the end of Royal Avenue, and I'm again 99% certain as I state this, but someone is welcome to correct me, I'm pretty sure that is the rear of the Chelsea Hospital, where the Chelsea pensioners, war veterans, live. Yeah. King's Road, indeed. Yeah, this is Royal Avenue on King's Road. You can see a huge construction site. I don't know what it is they're building, but this entire section of King's Road is closed to pedestrians on that side anyway. 120 it's going to be called, perhaps a new shopping centre and some rather swish apartments. It's a military hospital fundamentally. Chelsea pensioners are all ex-military personnel, soldiers and sailors and airmen. So yes, in that respect, I guess it's not strictly speaking private, but then neither is it public. You can't simply decide, hey, I want to go to Chelsea Hospital. It's actually called the Royal Hospital, the Royal Hospital Chelsea. Most people call it Chelsea Hospital. Again, this street over here is rather interesting. Apologies. See, the second that I let go of it, the wind is popping that camera off. It's curious. That's better. I think we're back on focus now. Okay, again, it's closed simply because of the fact that this construction work is ongoing here. If we carry along the King's Road, again, we're walking toward, for anyone just joining, we're walking toward the Sloane Square end. Looking at a map, this would be the eastern end of of King's Road. And again, another enormous construction project. Thank you. 33 King's Road. Yeah, so much is going on here, so much construction actually. A lot of this was not here just 2 weeks ago when I was doing the Christmas videos on King's Road. So I guess they waited until the new year to begin. This one's huge, even larger than the other one we just passed on the other side. New year, new opportunities, I guess. Plus prices, not only commercial premises but residential prices go up so rapidly in parts of central London that I guess it pays for them to redevelop and then put it on the market at a much higher rate, sadly. Typical opportunistic property developers, but it is what it is. Okay, so as we continue, somebody dropped their AirPod on the floor, very windy. Cheltenham Terrace. And in a moment we will enter onto Duke of York Square. A little bit more space then, you can see it's chaos here. And there we are, finally, some open space again. We've been a little bit urban for a while, haven't we? I'm going to perch for a short while on the seating here. This is Duke of York Square, that's Partridge's. Sort of rather nice upper end supermarket, shall we say. This in front of us, directly over there, that's the Saatchi Gallery. Public gallery, I'll have a wander in there in a moment. I'm not going in the gallery, but I mean into the grounds. Yeah, very nice. If you happen to live on the streets adjoining this area, you know that 100% that nothing's ever going to be built here overlooking your house, and that this entire space, Duke of York Square, will never be redeveloped. It's owned by the Cadogan estate. This is here to stay, in other words, and it's not going to change. They might change the way it looks, but nothing will be built here in addition to what's already here. So a safe bet, you know, if you win the lottery or the Powerball or whatever the name of the lottery is in your country, property investment in Chelsea is a very safe one. I'm going to, as I mentioned, folks, take this opportunity to briefly sit. I'm going to pop the tripod down for two reasons. Let me reset that into the centre. Apologies for anyone watching on YouTube. This will, once it's uploaded, be a simple repository, shall we say, for today's live. So there will be some moments when I will pause for different reasons. That's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. So right now, guys, I'm happily seated in a nice, dry, and it's actually quite warm. It is pretty warm right now. We've been out for a couple of hours. I have no gloves, no problem at all. Hands are not cold. It's a fairly pleasant day on the whole. The conditions are rather nice outside. So I'm going to leave this a teeny weeny bit towards King's Road. So we've got King's Road and Duke of York Square here. That's it. I'm going to hold this so that it doesn't fall. Okay, so now we're going to stay static for a little while. Thank you very much. I was going to mention that. It's interesting that you mentioned. Just to reiterate, folks, two things. On my TikTok page, when you click that little black button, the YouTube icon, it now gives a drop-down option. I'm going to duplicate the content for practical reasons as well as archival. Everything that is shot and then divided into smaller sections will initially be shared on TikTok. That's always my first go-to, because that's where the lives are shot in the first place. Those smaller segments will also be uploaded to Instagram. Okay, so anybody that hasn't yet seen or subscribed to my Instagram, followed it, whatever you call it, I don't know, please do so. I know a lot of you have asked me before, do you have an Instagram? Actually, folks, I don't know if you can make it out, it's too late. There's a Chelsea pensioner. Can you see this rather splendid chap walking here? You won't be able to see it if you're watching on YouTube. The chap in the middle of the frame, wearing the uniform, he is a Chelsea pensioner. See that? With his red stripe along the trousers. I'm not going to move over and run after him to film him, but yeah, that's a Chelsea pensioner. doing his shop. Sorry, back to my point. Yes, I know a lot of you don't use YouTube, or have a certain preference for where you choose to to digest your social media or videos or whatever. If you click that button, you'll now get a little drop down on my TikTok page. It'll give you the choice of YouTube or Instagram, or if you really prefer, both. So as you wish, guys. Every single thing that is shot and shared during the live on TikTok will be encoded into one single video and added to YouTube. The first one from Sunday's live, is now on YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel. You guys can watch it. I made it public a few hours ago before I came out this morning. That walk was from Sunday. There's a very, very in-depth discussion, in-depth explanation, underneath the video about when it was taken, the conditions it was taken under, some of the places that were visited. I will, probably tonight, if not tomorrow morning, add timestamps, okay? Because I appreciate that nobody wants to wade through a 4.5 hour video to find their favourite spots. So in every other video that's on YouTube, I have already timestamped the key locations. I will do that in the 4.5 hour one. There just hasn't been enough time. But that's live on YouTube now. That's the first ever TikTok live, fully encoded, 4.5 hour walk, no breaks, no pauses. It was 10.5 miles and 20,000 steps on Sunday. So that, guys, is one reason I would definitely encourage all of you to have a look at my YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Ditto with following me. I hate to use that phrase, it's horrible. On Instagram. So yes, you're welcome, and there's a lot more there that you guys have not seen. I'm just going to have a quick look whilst we're stationary at two things. One, the power and data on the secondary phone. Also, I don't know if you guys can see it, we're getting little spits of rain. Goodness me, I knew it was too good to be true. It did say rain at 2 p.m. and it's now 3 minutes to 2. Luckily, if it does rain, we can go and hide somewhere nearby. So it might be a sort of a sit and answer questions, but we'll see. Let's see. Okay, no, so we're absolutely fine in terms of the other phone is glorious, no problems at all. So we're not going to have any power issues today. You can see, folks, the weather. Look how quickly it changes. You see how the wind is picking up here. People are trying to sit outside and have something to eat, but their coffee's going to go all over them in a few minutes. Best family hotels with children. That is a super question. Honestly, again, it's a hard question to answer. It comes down to one simple factor: budget. Okay. Now, a lot of people obviously don't really care about how much they spend if they're going on holiday, especially if it's a special occasion or if they're travelling far. You can't go wrong. If budget is no option, choose any of the 5-star hotels in London, you're good. If budget is a concern, and to be honest, it's not about how much money you have or don't have. None of us want to pay more than we have to pay to travel comfortably, all right? I would always encourage travelling to London with a family, Airbnb. 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, lovely location, always in the centre, Kensington, Chelsea, even Mayfair. Incredibly good value compared to taking it a 5-star hotel. All right. Again, it depends on what you want. If you enjoy the facilities of a 5-star hotel, and you need them, that's the reason you're paying for that. It's not the fact that the room's very nice or it's a great suite. It's the fact that you've got 24-hour room service, you've got a health club, you've got a concierge, you've got a sommelier in the bar, etc., etc. A 5-star hotel is not per se any superior to staying in a rather swish Airbnb, unless you need that that aspect of service. If you do, I completely understand. It's worth paying for. I will not disparage the finer hotels in London. They all do a wonderful job. So again, it's going to come down to budget. Is there a lot of council flats near Sloane Square? It's a curious question. A lot, no, but there are some. One thing I pointed out in that very long tour, the tour from Sunday is primarily Mayfair. Okay, I was walking around some of the most expensive streets and elaborating on the very most expensive property in that part of London, the W1K postcode. In Mayfair, and the same here in Chelsea, and the same in Kensington, everywhere else, there is social housing and ex-council housing mixed in with all of those multi-million-pound houses. If I were to walk 5 to 7 minutes the other way along King's Road, away from Sloane Square, toward what is called World's End, we would then come across one of the largest council estates in central London, World's End, at the bottom of King's Road. It's not a bad place to live. It's not a poor place to live. It's not a grubby place to live. It's still prime central London, but it is social housing, for people that can't afford to live or to own one of these magnificent houses that we've enjoyed looking at today. So there is a huge disparity, a wealth disparity, and I could take you to several streets in Kensington where I could set this tripod down and switch on the camera, and the live would start with a 25, 30, 40 million pound house, and if I panned around 180 degrees directly to the opposite side of that same street, in other words the view that the owners of that house have every morning when they wake up and open their curtains, would be social council housing, worth literally 5% of that 40 million pound mansion. And to me, that's one of the strongest arguments, I would say, in favour of living in London. There is a huge, huge disparity, but for some reason, at base level, it seems to function rather well. Okay, people don't look down on other people. Oh, you're from that end of King's Road, or oh, you live there. Not like that. Okay, it really isn't like that. Yes, people might have their opinions and so on, but there's no overt snobbiness. And if there is, it's very easy to deal with that anyway. I mean, fundamentally, snobbiness is based on two factors here in the UK. It's based on, your family name. If, for example, you're born, to a titled family, and it's also based on where you went to school. Okay. We all know some of the most famous schools in the UK. For boys, it's Eton College in Windsor. For girls, it's Cheltenham Ladies College in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. And the same applies to schools in London. We went briefly and had a look at Westminster School in the video. I can't remember yesterday or the day before, I forgot. So yeah, it comes down to those two things fundamentally. And then there's another layer added on, unsurprisingly. Where did you go to university? And if that isn't enough, there's another layer as well on top of that. So if you say to somebody, hey, I went to Cambridge or I went to Oxford, the next question is, which school did you go to? Which university did you go to? Oh, I went to Oxford, I went to Cambridge. Oh, so did I. Which college did you go to? There are these social hierarchies. It's utterly ridiculous. But there are still these archaic social hierarchies that depend on those sort of bizarre, peculiar, totally irrelevant and ridiculous things here in the UK. Which school, which university, and then not only which university, which college did you go to when you went to that university? Because both Oxford and Cambridge, the two best universities in the UK, and many would say in some respects in the world. I will of course mention Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, Caltech, MIT, etc. We know there are plenty of others, but yeah, a lot of people would choose Oxford and Cambridge if they had a magic wand. But yeah, there are certain hierarchies. If you go to Cambridge, ideally you want to go to Trinity or King's. If you go to Oxford, ideally you would like to go to Christchurch, Magdalen, St John's. There's a Trinity at Oxford, or choice of King's. Balliol is another one of the most popular Oxford colleges. So yeah, we have those peculiar hierarchies, and that doesn't really manifest so much in London. Don't forget, London, I'm guessing, has a population of, no one really knows. But realistically, the population of London is something between 10 and 12 million at this point. It could well be higher. Again, nobody knows. Population census is kind of useless. A lot of people ignore it. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge that they live here. But no, there isn't particularly overt snobbiness. You will see very plainly, ordinarily, arguably poorly dressed people walking through Knightsbridge or along Sloane Street. Just as you will see incredibly rich people walking in most of the places in Zone 1 at least anyway. Going outside of Zone 1, the arguments, they become very different for other social reasons. That's something that perhaps I will get to address in future videos. For me, it's more about getting the channel well known in the centre, which will then give me the validation, as it were. To be able to venture further. If people know, hey, this channel would like to film in this area, I'm sure they welcome the publicity for those areas that are somewhat neglected. What's the snobbiest area? What's a snobby area of London? That's a super question as well. Let's have a think. Let's have a think. One moment. The snobbiest areas of London. I would say, realistically, some parts of Kensington and Chelsea. Okay, the reason for that is that yes, all parts of London, Okay, I mean the chap literally sitting in front of me now, I won't turn the camera, is smoking an enormous cigar, having just finished a run. Kind of defeats the purpose, but if he's happy. Kensington and Chelsea. Why? Because you still have on certain streets and at certain churches, Christian churches, obviously, Church of England. There are also a lot of Catholic churches here, large Spanish French populations. You still have certain streets and certain churches that the old moneyed families attend. Okay, and people know each other because they've lived here, or their parents lived here and they inherited the house. And some of the houses, for some families, have been in the same family for many hundreds of years. So there's still certain degrees of snobbery in certain parts of South Ken, High Street Ken. I'm thinking primarily of the Phillimore estate here, and here in Chelsea, especially Sloane Square end of Chelsea, which is where we're going to go in a little while when we continue the walk. I'm only waiting to make sure that one, the weather doesn't deteriorate, and two, it doesn't rain. I think we're good, folks. It doesn't seem to be heading toward rain. So what I'm going to do, having a look, Belgravia is very different. Belgravia is primarily, there are a lot of consulates, a lot of embassies, a lot of corporate HQs, hedge funds, the rest of it, a lot of VCs in Belgravia. But the primary nationality of people that choose to live in Belgravia, Russian, by far. If you sort of break down the central areas by district, Knightsbridge and Mayfair are very popular with Middle Eastern visitors. Obviously Knightsbridge because of Harrods. In Mayfair we have the Saudi Embassy. Kensington and Chelsea, a very, very distinct sort of European North American flavour. Chelsea, I mean, I used to live literally where we are right now, Duke of York Square. I used to live right here. This is how I know the area very, very well. I lived here, moments from where I'm sitting right now, for about 4 years. This area, full of Swiss, French, Italian, and American bankers. Lots and lots of bankers, investment and other types live here. People involved in the financial world choose to live around Sloane Square. Okay. High Street Kensington, I'm noticing a lot more. I can speak intermediate Russian. It's nowhere near fluent. It used to be. It's not anymore. I'm noticing a lot more that people are speaking Russian on High Street Kensington. An awful lot of Russian money is now arriving in Kensington. So it's interesting the way that these things are broken down. Not an awful lot of Russian money in Knightsbridge. As I mentioned, Knightsbridge is primarily Middle Eastern visitors that own the property and obviously like to shop at Harrods. Harrods is after all Qatari owned. But that's the kind of way it splits down. And if you then go sort of north of Hyde Park, you're still in Zone 1, over toward Bayswater, and then you have Notting Hill and Ladbroke Grove. Those areas tend to be very popular with Moroccans, Brazilians, people also from other Latin American countries, and then curiously enough, especially Queensway in W2, very popular with people from Thailand. Don't ask me why, it just is. It just is. So that's a sort of a very rough. I am grossly generalising, but at the same time, I'm not being inaccurate in making those generalisations about the way that the areas seem to have been divided in that way. And again, South Kensington, we walk past the Lycée Charles de Gaulle. Obviously, it's extremely popular with people from France, often very wealthy families from Paris that like to send their children there. And as mentioned before, now that South Ken is very much incredibly expensive and overpopulated, and you notice that at the weekends when you go on the street, it's very busy. The French have now started very much to move to Marylebone in W1, Marylebone High Street. That area is just north of Oxford Street. Again, all of the areas I've referred to today, Mayfair, Belgravia, Chelsea, Knightsbridge, Kensington, Marylebone, the West End, etc., and all of the famous places in central London. I've walked the majority of them in December, and there will be walks of anything between 2 and 3 hours, all on my YouTube channel, guys. All original, can't be found anywhere else at this point. They are only on YouTube, and they will not be uploaded to Instagram either, because Instagram does not accept videos of that length, and neither does TikTok. So YouTube really should be your sort of number one destination if you really enjoy the more in-depth walks. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, we've got some very interesting walks Britain's most expensive street walk is on my YouTube channel, and also that walk along the very private Kensington Palace gardens, past those £100 million houses. Hampstead is a different kettle of fish. I'm not a native to North London, okay? I don't know Hampstead. I know it. I don't know it intimately, okay? I know Chelsea and Kensington and Knightsbridge and Mayfair intimately because in the past 20 years I've lived in all of those areas, in different places in all of those areas. You know, I've often joked that I could actually be, if my YouTube and TikTok career fails, I could always be an Uber or a black taxi driver. I've got fairly intimate knowledge of the geography of these parts of London. That's the only reason I tend to focus on them. It's very easy to not get lost, to know what I'm talking about, to be informative in what I'm telling you guys. Old money versus new money. Old money is always on the estates, and what I mean by that, okay, we have certain estates in London that are, shall we say, beyond reproach, okay, in terms of their pedigree. Let me run through them. Where we are right now, I'm sitting on an estate right now. This whole area around here, going up towards Sloane Square and then up Sloane Street and behind Peter Jones, is the Cadogan estate. Earl of Cadogan, his family owns all the land, owned it for a long, long time, given it by a king or a queen in the long distant past. Cadogan estate, okay? You can't buy a property here. You can lease it or you can rent it. You will never own it. You will not own the ground, okay? So you could potentially take a 100-year lease on a house. You will never own the house. You will simply be leasing the house and the space that you live in. That's the Cadogan estate. If we head north of here back towards High Street, Kensington, then where we started this morning at Holland Park, bordering Holland Park, that very fine, very expensive area, is the Phillimore estate, okay? Again, on my YouTube channel there is a video of me walking around the Phillimore estate, along Phillimore Gardens, the most expensive street in the United Kingdom. If we go across into Mayfair, then we have the largest of the central London estates, the Grosvenor estate. They own part of Belgravia and a huge swathe of property, land in Mayfair, including of course Grosvenor Square and many other parts of famous Mayfair. The other large estate that's worthy of mention is in Marylebone. It's around Harley Street and Marylebone High Street. That's the De Warden estate. So in terms of old money versus new money, old money, those areas, the estates, you know, a lot of people have no problem with leasing a house for 100 or 200 years or whatever, and enjoying it. There are obviously exceptions to that, but that's where the old money tends to congregate. Here, Chelsea, King's Road, Sloane Square, Kensington, Phillimore Estate. Not so much, I would say, in Mayfair, simply because Mayfair is primarily popular with Middle Eastern. You do get a lot of other nationalities living in Mayfair and owning houses or living on the Grosvenor, but Mayfair is by far the most popular with families and visitors from the Middle East, and the same is true of Knightsbridge. There is, and I'm quite welcome to be corrected because I'm almost certain in stating this, that there is no landed part of Knightsbridge. There is no estate, as it were, in Knightsbridge. Knightsbridge is an exception in the centre. I don't know how or why that is, but for historical reasons, I guess. I would think actually it's because a large part of Knightsbridge obviously comprises the southern side of Hyde Park. And then as we go toward High Street Ken, we obviously have Kensington Palace. A lot of that ground, a lot of that land is still owned by the Crown. So that might well explain why Knightsbridge has never endured the same fate. Perhaps they realised even 500-600 plus years ago that, hey, we're not going to let anyone have this spot of land because it really is pretty prime. So hence they dished out other sections. Let's not forget that Kensington and so on was just in the middle of nowhere. It was open space. Just a couple of hundred years ago. It wasn't terribly important. It's only obviously as London expanded over time that rural land became urban, and it became the rich parts of central London that we now know. Obviously then London was a city. It was much, much smaller. Okay, so at that moment, guys, I'm just going to have a quick look if there are any other questions. I don't think there are. We're doing super with the light skin, guys. Thank you very much. Other camera's good. We're going to move on. I'm going to very quickly pop over there toward the Saatchi Gallery, cut through onto Duke of York Square, exit Duke of York Square onto Sloane Square, and then make our way to Knightsbridge. The goal today is to end at Harrods. Okay, again, if it starts to rain, I will end the stream prematurely. I've got 2 cameras here, I've got no umbrella, there's no way of protecting the kit, but for the moment we're good, so let's press on. Okay, so panning back over toward the Saatchi Gallery, and welcome back anyone on YouTube. We're now going to start moving again. No one's watching live on YouTube right now, I'm just mentioning that for the sake of the live, what will then be not alive, but when I upload this TikTok live to YouTube later. So let's come across. That's the Saatchi Gallery. If you can see the sign right in front, the Saatchi Gallery. The Saatchi family, in fact, they made their money in advertising. Maurice and Charles Saatchi, 2 very famous brothers, made so much money. They still live near here. They made it a fortune in advertising and sold their advertising agency, Saatchi and Saatchi. They were very close to Margaret Thatcher's government, the Conservative government in the 80s. And they donated an awful lot of money for the naming rights, hence the gallery being known as the Saatchi Gallery. I don't know how much it cost them, 50 million, 100 million, I don't know, 200 million, no clue. That is public information, I don't have it to hand. But yeah, that's the Saatchi Gallery. If we go back through the iron gates, we will then walk from this spot, Saatchi Gallery, back on to Duke of York Square. This was really beautifully illuminated for Christmas. In fact, there was an enormous Bulgari sculpture here, a huge serpent right outside the gallery. There was also a magnificent tree right in front of me. Again, not because it really matters. If anyone's interested and is feeling a little bit nostalgic for excuse me, for anything festive or seasonal and liked Christmas material, YouTube folks, my YouTube channel, it's all covered. I walked this entire area. In fact, I think I walked it on Christmas Eve, the evening of Christmas Eve. I did the Chelsea walk and covered all of this, and it really was beautiful. The lighting in here was always done very well. If you can see the weather, look, no one's sitting outside to dine here at the restaurant today. It's incredibly windy, so I'm very sorry if the microphones are struggling a little bit with the audio. But again, we're still good. We don't have any rain, it's still dry. Let's hope that remains the case as we press on. We're not terribly far from Knightsbridge now. Again, this is walking across Duke of York Square. When we emerge at the other end in a moment, just panning around, nothing particularly interesting here. It's the usual shops and restaurants and so on. This area is all relatively new in Chelsea terms. I don't know when it was built. It's only, these buildings I think have been here for something like, I don't know, 20 years, 15 years, I can't remember exactly. Continue. Up ahead, in fact, is one of the single most Instagram spots in the whole of London over Christmas. It will have been removed now, but there was a floral arch. And it's funny because, if you guys look at the Christmas video that was shot here in Chelsea, I literally had to wait to walk through it. There were so many people. A lot of Chinese Instagrammers were here over Christmas enjoying that. This area, Chelsea, is incredibly popular with Chinese Instagrammers. I don't know why. It is beautiful and very understated, but I don't know why it would be more popular, for example, than Knightsbridge. It was here, this tunnel. It had been entirely decorated and illuminated. It did look wonderful, I must admit. But yeah, there's literally sort of a queue of people where I'm standing right now, waiting to go through. Now it's just plain and ordinary. It's all been removed. As we come out, florist there. The building in front is John Lewis, the department store. But this is one of their flagships. And although it's John Lewis, the actual shop itself is called Peter Jones. I think you can make that out there. Peter Jones here on Sloane Square. Okay, and it's a good spot actually for 2 reasons. One, obviously because of where it is here on Sloane Square, and you'll see why in a moment. But also, if I look up, and I'm not sure this will be picked up by the other camera, if we look up to the top of the building, on the very top floor, as you can see, is it's not a restaurant. I mean, it's a sort of restaurant coffee shop with super views over the square. So it's a great spot to go up. You know, if you're going to do a bit of shopping, it's a huge department store. Has a very good department store. Lots of stuff in there. But yeah, the top floor there is a cafe with super views over Sloane Square. So just to confirm and reiterate where we are, folks. One moment. Let's reset the gimbal. Looking directly ahead, that's where we came from. That is King's Road, heading, as I stand here, let me think, that would be King's Road heading west, if I were looking at a map, down toward World's End, and then Fulham beyond. And then the river, beyond Fulham is Hammersmith and Chiswick and so on, Richmond. And then if I pan around onto Sloane Square, you can understand why this is regarded as being one of the finest places to live in central London. Okay, over there on the corner, we have Tiffany. Just behind we have the church, and then behind that is Cadogan Hall, which is a musical venue. On the far side of the square, if you can make out those burgundy awnings, that's Colbert. Nice French brasserie, very popular. People sitting outside in the summer, probably not today. Next to that, roughly in the centre of the frame now, is the Royal Court Theatre. And just to the right of that, as I pan around, we'll see it in a moment, is Sloane Square Tube Station. So you've got it all here. You've got the luxury shops and Sloane Street. You've got actually, I've just noticed what the lady was taking a picture of. That's a very good sign there, because they've sort of brass plated it. You can see that. King's Road, SW3, the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. That is where we're going to go in a second when we've walked around the square. And that road in front of us, directly in the centre of the camera, is Sloane Street. Just like Bond Street, very famous, lots of luxury, high-end retail, and Sloane Street leads directly to Knightsbridge, which will today almost certainly be our final destination. The winter sale here at Ralph Lauren. Looking directly in front of me, this is Lower Sloane Street. This leads to 1, the Royal Hospital, Chelsea, and 2, ultimately, Pimlico and Victoria train station, and of course, ultimately, 2, Buckingham Palace, etc., etc. And no, before anyone asks, we're not going to Buckingham Palace today. I think I've been there on the last 3 walks. You guys are going to get sick and tired of seeing Buckingham Palace, literally, I swear. If anyone really wants to see Buckingham Palace, Sunday's walk, all of it, is on YouTube. It was finally finished processing it, and it appeared this morning. That's now live on my YouTube channel. That's the Mayfair, Piccadilly Circus, Chinatown, Buckingham Palace walk from Sunday. That was one of my favourite walks, actually. That was a very, very long walk, covering roughly 10 miles. When will I be going live next? I can never honestly promise that. I'm reluctant to promise it, because I simply don't know. The main reason I don't know is it's twofold. 1, weather, okay? If the weather is utterly dreadful, as it was, in fact, during the last broadcast, we had a lot of rain when I was next to the river. That's obviously problematic. Weather is the biggest issue, okay? That determines whether I can live or not, and where I'm living from. And also, of course, other things such as processing time. The Sunday video, today's Wednesday, okay? The Sunday video, it took roughly a day to finish editing it, and then I uploaded it to YouTube. It took YouTube a hell of a long time to process it, and then even longer to let me make it public. I guess because, it was an enormous file. It was a 4.5 hour encode, so it took a long time. So I prefer not to have a massive backlog of things to process, okay? So for example, I still haven't yet fully uploaded yesterday's walk. I did, I think, 4 or 5 segments from yesterday's walk and put them on TikTok last night. That is something I will finish this afternoon, and then when I finish yesterday's walk, I will obviously need to start work on today's walk. So I'm reluctant to, you know, I could go out and walk every single day, but that means that the material will then be lost. And part of the reason I'm doing this is to, you know, preserve that material. So I'm going to aim to go live 2 or 3 times a week. If I can go live more often, I will do. But obviously I want to keep up with the workload and make sure that the stuff is encoded on YouTube, because otherwise, fundamentally, think about it, guys. You know, if we have some, and we have had some wonderful experiences on these walks, especially talking to certain people out and about, I think it's crucial that those lives be preserved, okay? Because some of them have been 4, 5, 6 hours long, and to record them simultaneously for YouTube in 4K whilst I'm, you know, talking with you folks, I think that's the smart move here. You know, as I mentioned earlier, this is also being recorded today as I'm talking to you guys and living this on TikTok. I'm also recording this separately on a 4K camera, which is mounted next to the phone, and that will be uploaded to YouTube tonight or tomorrow and should appear by the weekend. But yeah, to give an idea of how it turned out, and I haven't watched it all yet, Sunday's walk is actually finally, after almost 2 days of processing and uploading, it's finally on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Link in the bio, guys. So if anyone that wasn't with us on Sunday, that was a super walk, and it includes all of Chinatown as well. Have a good look at it. You will like it, I'm sure. Okay, so let's continue. So Royal Court Theatre. Bus is going to turn. It's not going to come this way. That, as I mentioned before, is the tube station. Again, super access directly out of the tube station onto Sloane Square and to the shops here. Royal Court Theatre. Come in, etc. Hairdressers, Tony and Guy. Colbert. I mentioned before the building we can see when we're on the south of the square. That's another view of it. That's Cadogan Hall. We'll walk past it shortly anyway. Yeah, so it's a musical venue, classical music, opera, etc. Cadogan Hall right through. I'm just waiting for a break in the traffic and we'll cross over, and here it is. Literally the moment I mention it, and over we go. In front, this is the Botanist, another very well-known, very famous sort of Sloaney Chelsea hangout. There's a restaurant, etc., and it's a bar as well. This is where the locals often spend their time. It's very nice, not super ridiculously expensive either. It's a very nice place. Yeah, very nice indeed. Okay, let's continue. Sloane Square Hotel in front of us. Again, a great choice hotel-wise, not ridiculously expensive, but super location. I mean, really, especially if you like to shop, luxury high-end retail shop. That's the brasserie at the hotel. We're going to walk around the corner now onto Sloane Street. Just to give you guys a perspective, again, I'm now on the north side of Sloane Square. That is Peter Jones, the department store, as I mentioned initially, in the centre of the frame. Pan across the square. The fountains are on. Doesn't really mean much. We can't see an awful lot, and they're not illuminated, obviously, because it's not dark. But it is rather swish, isn't it? Slightly Parisian in some respects, actually. And in fact, they're busy taking down the lights here at Tiffany. Okay, let's see what we have as we walk along Sloane Street. Obviously, next door, as you guys can see, is Cartier. Yeah, they're taking down the Christmas lights and obviously putting up whatever is going to be replacing them. A lot of that, in fact, actually we noticed. We had that the other evening, didn't we, when we caught the removal of the lights on Bond Street in that live. So yeah, now we're walking northward, away from Sloane Square, northward along Sloane Street, and that will take us up, as I mentioned, toward Knightsbridge. I can't pan across from across the street because, as I mentioned, it's closed with that work. But here, this is the Holy Trinity on Sloane Square. Another beautiful building. Sorry? Oh, what? You want to go on the public path? I can't hear because you've got your helmet on. That was an idiot on a motorbike that just decided he wanted to go on the public path and get everyone out. What an idiot. Can you imagine that idiot? He could have run someone over. Stupid man. Yeah, he didn't use his brain, exactly. That was a guy on a motorbike who just decided to drive across the public path. What a fool. Anyway, never mind. Let's continue. Luckily, he didn't hurt anyone. So we have more shops over here, Hackett, blah, 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 etc. I mean, he screamed at me to get out of the way. One, I couldn't hear what he was talking about because he's got a helmet on. And secondly, he actually wanted to drive onto the path just to avoid waiting for 2 minutes. How odd. Okay, so walking along. This part of the street is not terribly exciting, folks. We have to walk it to get to Knightsbridge. So we are going to walk it. I'll quickly, very briefly, show you Cadogan Hall, which is here, as we're walking past it anyway. A super venue. In fact, super not just in terms of the way it looks, but acoustically. Cadogan Hall. What have we got? We have Madeleine Bell. You see, if you're fortunate enough to live in Chelsea, especially at the Sloane Square end, you can see how comfortable life can be. You have every possible shop you could ever need, every restaurant you could ever need, hotels, bars, just everything pretty much. I mean, it really is an ideal place to live in London. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's exclusive. Yes, it's old money. But my goodness me, doesn't it just sort of scream affluence and wealth in a quite a subtle way, actually, certainly compared to Knightsbridge. You know, people that live here know that other people know they're wealthy, so they don't actually flaunt it terribly. Okay, so that's Cadogan Hall. Let's go back onto Sloane Street. As I was saying, this part of Sloane Street is unremarkable. We're going to be walking for a few minutes along Sloane Street until we hit, first of all, the shops. Then we'll see the Jubilee Carlton Tower Hotel, the Millennium Hotel, Salt Bays Restaurant. Obviously, then we will have the Mandarin Oriental Hotel at Knightsbridge. After we've seen all of those, we will then head to Harrods. The ultimate goal and end of this live will almost certainly be Harrods today. But let's see where we end up. Yeah, Upper East Side, very much so. Yeah, it's a very relaxed neighbourhood. This is a very, 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 very safe part of central London. You know, people, instead of people looking at me in a bad way, they're sort of, you know, just gently bowing their heads to not be filmed, and I respect that. They have the right to privacy even if they're in a public place. Exactly as I have the right to film as I'm in a public place. I'll try and keep the camera focused on the middle of the street. I have no idea. Occasionally on Sloane Street they have those days where you end up seeing 20, I'm not exaggerating, 20, 30 Lamborghinis driving along one after another. I don't think that's going to happen today. It happened just after New Year. A moment, let's wait for the taxi and we'll cross over. It's very popular, in fact, with supercar, Middle Eastern supercar owners, because this street is not only straight, but as you can see, it's relatively, most of the time, relatively quiet. So being able to zoom from one end to the other, reset the gimbal, one moment. Being able to zoom from one end to the other can take, not very long in a supercar. So they do tend to use this as a bit of a mini racetrack. Typically late at night, it's harmless, I guess. Again, I mentioned before that a lot of Chelsea is the Cadogan estate and Cadogan family. To give you an example, this street here a very grand and expensive street. Very expensive street. Is Cadogan Gate, okay? Lots of Cadogan named streets around here. Cadogan Square, Cadogan Place, Cadogan this, Cadogan that. This is Cadogan Gate. Over here is Cadogan Place. Again, work going on, road closed. That enormous private garden. Access again only available to people that live on the Cadogan estate and wish to pay a fee for the key. Camera's being funny again, apologies folks. There we are. So that's me looking along Cadogan Gate. And you can see how nice those red brick buildings are. Yeah, Cadogan anything is old money. I mean, it's an old English aristocratic family that own a huge part of this area in London, so it's not really surprising. It is, yeah, the architecture is wonderful. Especially over there, you know, this is a ridiculously expensive place to live. I think the garden key fee alone is about 2,000 a year. You know, so you don't automatically get a right to use the garden just because you live here. Even if you own a, you know, a 30-40 million pound house, you have to pay a key or gate fee as well, you know, to get the key from the Cadogan estate office. Mad as it sounds, it's true. How do I know that? Because I used to live on the Cadogan estate, unfortunately. My great misfortune, guys, in life. But it is a wonderful garden. There are tennis courts, etc. There's a small playground, and it goes all the way up toward Knightsbridge. It's very quiet here today on Sloane Street, at least at this end. Knightsbridge end will be far busier because half the road is closed. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but obviously there's a lot of work going on here. Let's continue. In the distance there, where you see the taxis coming, approaching us, and the traffic lights, that's where we cross into sort of Sloane Street proper. In other words, you know, high-end retail, the small stretch that leads to Harrods. The noise to my right is the guy chopping down the trees, the dead trees in the garden. You can see through the gates the tennis courts. There's a couple of guys playing tennis actually right there at the moment. Road is clear. Yeah. Lovely. The building to the right of the camera at the moment, it's in the middle of the frame right now. The tall building coming into view, that's the Jubilee Carlton Tower Hotel. Before that, over on the right hand side, you see the black banner hanging down. That's the Cadogan Hotel. This is a residential building, apartment block, whatever you want to call it. 4D house it's called. And next to it we've got a different one, Dorchester Court. White entrance, red brick. Those are likely to be private houses next door. Got a blue plaque on one of them. I don't know what or who the plaque is for. Let's continue. We're going to, in a moment, cross over, and then we'll be very close to the northern part. I think the grey building, in fact, over there in the centre of the frame, I think that's the Norwegian, I can't remember if it's Norwegian or Danish Embassy, one or the other. Got somebody here loading up their rather swish old vintage car with the luggage from the hotel. Again, see, a lot of the roads are closed today. A lot. So in the distance there, as I mentioned, that's Jubilee Carlton Tower. Nice Ferrari just going around the corner. This really is, on a good day, this is supercar world. You'll often get very, very large groups of TikTokers, Instagrammers, YouTubers that will camp out half the day to capture the cars. Some car owners are going around hoping it's busy, but no, it's not. I guess because half the street is closed. Just a moment and we'll continue. This is Pont Street, which leads into Belgravia. We were there a few days ago. Pretty sure it's the Danish Embassy. If anyone from Denmark is watching, apologies if I got it wrong. Likewise, if it's the Norwegian Embassy and I got that wrong. It is actually, one second, I think it's the Norwegian, wait. Can't read the sign. It's, I can't see. Can't see. Too far away. Moment. It is the... No, it is in fact. Actually, wait, I think it's both. Hold on. No, it's not. It's the Danish. Sorry. Yeah, it's the Danish Embassy here. This is the Royal Danish Kongelig Danske Ambassad. Apologies for my Danish pronunciation there. It's terrible. Royal Danish Embassy. So hello anyone joining from Denmark or any other countries in Scandinavia. Okay, so finally we make it to the Swiss end. You can see how lovely the gardens are, how well kept they are, the fine job that the groundsman does. No, the US Embassy, it used to be in Mayfair, the US Embassy. It's actually south of the river. The US decided they wanted to have their embassy in Battersea, of all places. I have no idea why, but yeah, they had the best embassy in Mayfair. Then they sold it. It's now being converted into a hotel. And they moved the US Embassy, consulate and all the staff to Battersea. Imagine that being an American diplomat or the ambassador and you live in Mayfair for most of your career, and then one day they come in and say, hey guys, I've got some news. You're all moving to Battersea. And Battersea isn't the end of the world, it's not very far from Chelsea, but it's a universe away from... oh, somebody's lost their caps blowing across the street. She got it, luckily. Yeah, it's a world away. I mean, it really is. Battersea is an absolute world away from Mayfair. Good lord. Trying to centre this. Actually, it's trying to centre it. We missed the Super Ferrari that just went by. Never mind. Plenty of those. Again, the wind is playing havoc. Okay, so yeah, this is the Jumeirah Carlton Tower. You see it's not illuminated, but the 2023 display in the middle there. It was illuminated. This is Cadogan Place as I cross over. I'm going to very briefly, I don't know if you guys saw him saying hello. I'm going to very briefly walk along here and then double back. We don't need to go into Belgravia, and we can address that on the way back. That's the Jumeirah Carlton Tower. With some rather nice cars, rather swanky cars right outside, like this one, etc., and many more besides. Door staff, yeah, very nice hotel. Vehicles like this. Now, I'm not going to go further ahead because this was all covered in the other video, and when we did all of Belgravia. Going down toward Knightsbridge. Again, that's on my YouTube. That's massively been covered already. So I'm going to go back, double back a teeny weeny bit on the other side of the street, and then continue along Sloane Street until we reach Knightsbridge. Better views anyway from this side. Security guys are a teeny weeny bit funny, but again, they can't say anything because of where I now am. Jumeirah Carlton Tower. It's just the restaurant at the bottom of the hotel, and then the shops begin. Obviously, the first one we have is Hermes. After Bond Street, Sloane Street probably is, and obviously Harrods as well, probably is number one luxury retail destination here in central London.
I thought you did business up here.
You want, sorry?
Well, this one you got to
So as I mentioned, Hermes. Over there we have probably the most expensive shop on the whole street, Loro Piano, if anyone wants a £30,000 pure cashmere coat. Prada. To my right is La Perla. Suma Santwiga, it's a restaurant. Audemars Piguet. If you pause to look across the street, we've got the somewhat less impressive Armani. We have Todd's next to it. This side, on my right, sorry, is Chanel. Yves Saint Laurent. Over there, Bottega Veneta, Dior, etc. Valentino, Dolce & Gabbana, Bulgari, Fendi, Versace, Roberto Cavalli. That's the Millennium Hotel here in Knightsbridge. Not particularly, nowhere near as grand as Jumeirah Carlton Tower, but you know. Montclair, this side. Gucci on the other side. Louis Vuitton, obviously. Graf on the other side. They're always very fussy about being filmed. See the guy outside Graf? The reason he's looking at me, glaring at the camera, is that Graf is a diamond dealer that's been robbed many times. He can glare all he wants, he's not going to say anything. Okay, Omega. And the other stores that lead up to Knightsbridge and beyond. One moment. Directly in front of us, as we arrive in a moment at Knightsbridge, that's One Hyde Park. The world's most expensive residential buildings. I think I've mentioned before. Ferragamo, etc. On the corner is one second. Actually, I did notice in the car headlights there, there's a little bit of rain. That's Harvey Nichols on the corner. As I mentioned, One Hyde Park. Hyde Park is behind it. We're going to be very lucky today, guys. It is actually starting to rain. We're super close to Harrods. But yeah, as you can see on the street, I think you can probably see it, it's spitting a teeny weeny bit. So here we are on Knightsbridge. Centre of the retail universe. This is the Mandarin Oriental. Directly in the centre of the frame. That's the Mandarin Oriental. Rolex beneath One Hyde Park. Then we have a bank. Then we have the McLaren showroom over there. It literally guys, it's amazing that how often this happens in the lives that it rains at the end. It's utterly incredible how lucky we get with the weather. I say that, I mean it's starting to rain now. It's okay, we're going to make it to Harrods, don't worry. That's the new entrance on Knightsbridge Station. That, I don't know if you can make it out, if you can see over there between the traffic, the yellow car in the showroom, that's the McLaren showroom across there. Again, look at these, the buildings of One Hyde Park are just, wow, spectacular. Top floor, 140 million. And obviously, the Toot bus decided to get in the way, didn't it? Just as I'm panning. See, a Mandarin Oriental, extra benefit of living in One Hyde Park, room service. You could order room service from the hotel. They built, as you can see there, lift shaft, also private entrance from the Mandarin Oriental kitchens into One Hyde Park. I guess that's the beauty of being a billionaire living in Knightsbridge. The room service from the Mandarin Oriental. This is the newest Apple store here in London. It's enormous, it's huge. I think there are only 4, Westfield, Covent Garden, Regent Street. This is the Knightsbridge Apple store. Get ready, we're going to definitely see some umbrellas in a minute. The rain is coming. And what's that, folks? What is that in the centre of the frame? We made it. Goodness me, I didn't think we would, but we just about made it. Ha. 1 second, let's get past these ladies. The good thing about it, even if it does rain, we have places like this. There's plenty of cover here in Knightsbridge, worst way. So I can always have a bit of a Q&A if we get to the end and the rain really hits us. But yes, Harrods. Christmas lighting is gone. The Dior lighting is gone. Now replaced with a lighting on the side that says sale. Harrods sale, yeah. I'm going to cross the road because the view on the other side is much better, looking toward Harrods. Plus, in fact, on the other side, southern side of Knightsbridge, there are plenty of places under cover, which is also great. So I'm going to try in a moment. Yeah, it's raining now. See, the umbrellas have already come out. We made it there, didn't we? We got to the end. Can anybody have a look and see how long this walk was? How long was the stream? It's just before 3 p.m. What time did we begin? Anyone, please? Just out of curiosity. It's not pouring yet. Yeah, look, see, the streets are getting wet, literally as we're walking in them on this live. What timing? I mean, seriously. The rain was forecast for 2 p.m. We got an extra hour before it came. That is incredibly fortunate today. Also explains why Knightsbridge is quieter than I would have expected, in fact, for this time of the day, especially as the sale is on. And bingo, at the very last moment, literally as it's starting to pour with rain, we made it. To Harrods. Not that it needs any introduction. There's one shop that really does need no introduction to anyone, no matter where you're from. It's definitely Harrods. I'm paying that manually. You can see, pretty busy. This is me looking down. I'm standing on Knightsbridge, but looking toward Holland Crescent, directly in front, and the rain is really starting now. I don't know if you guys can see it yet. Probably get some more umbrellas in a moment. I'm going to get onto the other side, simply because one, there's a good spot that's under cover, and secondly, gives the best views over Harrods. Second, let me cross over in the pouring rain, past this very kind driver who has a Monaco plate on his car. 1 second. Boom. We did it, and as usual you guys are going to smash 100k likes. Incredible. Okay, let's see where I can pop the tripod down comfortably and not worry about the weather. I think I found somewhere. 1 moment. Thank you, everyone. In fact, now I'm directly outside. On my right is Prince's Court, which in fact is directly opposite Harrods. Look at those skies. Look in the distance. Look at those skies. The rain clouds are desperate. It's going to rain massively. I can tell 100% it's going to pour any moment. That's looking back along Knightsbridge toward the Hyde Park end. I'm going to go back this way because a couple of the shops at the other end have good cover, and I'm still on the public highway, and that's what matters at this point. There we go, as usual you guys smashed it straight through 100k in a matter of moments even. Incredible. Thank you very much, everyone. Let me see if I can get to a good spot that's relatively covered. I will end the YouTube recording and then focus on your questions. Just here at the entrance of this building is one of my favourite spots to pop the camera. One, because you never get bothered, and two, because of the view. Ta-da! So, just a moment, everybody. Goodbye to anyone that's watching this on the later to be uploaded YouTube of this live stream. So I'm going to end the recording now.